right, let's see if this is going to work. A little bit of a different setup today, but we do what we can, right? So let me know if you guys can hear me. Hopefully the lighting is okay. That's the big fear. So that's always the big concern, is enough lighting for you guys and not so much that it triggers a migraine. You never know. I got my drinks down here, so that's exciting. And I'm going to be trying something new that's covered in cat hair. So I don't know. It's got the word wonky in it, so it makes me feel like it's from the UK. Let's find out. Actually, I didn't check. British spring water. All right. So let me know if you guys can see me and hear me. Don't have any comments yet in the chat, and then we'll get some. Do you guys like this sound? I don't even know. This, like, that sound. Or does it particularly bother anybody? That's the other question. All right. I don't know if that's a claim, so we'll just go for it. Actually, it's really good. It's almost like the LaCroix, but there's flavors in it, so that's nice. Instead of like the hints of flavors of yesteryear, you know what I mean? The with me or anyone else, please never stop being you. I'm not sure what that's in reference to, but cool, thank you. That's very motivating anyway. So I like the sound of opening a soda can. Sounds sugary. It does, doesn't it? Zero sugar in this one though. I think there's not even any sweetener. Carbonated spring water, natural flavoring, blackcurrant extract, tartaric acid. So that's, sorry to disappoint, not as sugary as it could be. Why is this turning off? I didn't ask it to turn off. My air conditioner speaks to me. Which is fun. I might turn it back on later, but it already turned itself off. Yeah, I thought the yellow was kind of a fun pop. I've got the golden spiral here, which is always exciting. So far, none of my students have noticed what it was, but that's okay. I think most people don't notice it anyway. Hell the hell, I make a lot of typos. I mean, it happens. But I still found it motivating. I'm sorry, I hear like it's like an electrical clicking. Sorry, there's there's something in the wall. I've never heard this. This is very strange. I never sit here. This is like a walking through spot. Huh. Okay, well, all that fun stuff. So there's not a whole lot planned. We can kind of just chat about anything you want, but I was talking with a friend of mine, and we were talking about weight loss. We were talking about psychology, and I thought if you guys were interested in talking about that, we could, and I did ask that they message me exactly where we had left off, so that way I could check it and reference it. Let's see. The fat trap enigma. Is it mental and emotional? The diet itself works, but is there like a psychology block? So we were talking about people like Amberlynn Reid, for example, where they announce, hey, I'm trying to lose weight. And then they do the exact opposite. My friend had mentioned there's someone that there's like a coworker with them, and they were having that kind of issue as well. So does anybody know that person? Does anybody think maybe they might be that person, where they announce, hey, I'm going to lose weight, and then they end up just gaining more weight? And I don't mean like, oh, I was planning on going on a diet for 30 days and then it didn't work, didn't pan out. I'm talking like you said, all right, I'm gonna do this thing and make this change, and then you ended up gaining a significant amount of weight after that. Get a cup and place it on the wall. Place your ear against the bottom of the cup. I have no cup like next to me to do that. I don't like getting up very much when I started live stream, but I feel like I'm going to have to because I had a lot to drink this morning and I think I'm just gonna have to pee. So we'll maybe take breaks in the live stream. So that's always a time. But do you guys know the type of person that I'm talking about? And I'll see if I can find an image. Let's see. Thinking about quitting smoking makes me crave a cigarette. I would say, yeah, maybe similar. Or has anybody talked about making a big change in their life otherwise? It doesn't have to be about weight. So something about, I'm finally going to start saving money, and you just keep blowing all of your money, just all the same way, or even worse than you were before. Or I'm going to go back to school, or I'm going to find a better job, and then you just don't. Does anybody have that? And it's not just wanting to do it and then not doing it. It's the idea of making a big show about wanting to do it and then really failing to do it. So that's going to be the issue. So for example, if you think about quitting smoking and then that triggers you to want to feed the addiction, that's one thing. I would say that's pretty normal, right? We're talking like if you, in front of all of your friends, you were smoking and then you said, you know what? Take the cigarette out of your mouth, throw it down, crush it. These things are killing me. Take all the cigarettes out of your packet and crush them. From here on out, you guys can hold me to it. I'm gonna quit smoking. I'm really worried about my health, and I lost a family member or friend to lung cancer, and I just don't want that to be me. I don't want you guys to be sad because of me and my addiction, blah, 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 blah. And then after that big show, maybe you were okay for half a day or one day, and then you went and just bought a big carton of cigarettes. That's the kind of thing we're talking about. So has anybody gone into that route? You guys know that type of person. So it's a very specific type of person. Give you guys a second to answer. It always feels like I'm in the middle of class, which I think is why the live stream works as a rapport. Somebody had mentioned that it seems like I feel very comfortable with this kind of setup, and I'm like, yeah, well, that's how I have to work. Let's see, I can't deal with that level of social shame, right? Most people can't, right? So why would somebody do that? Why would someone do that? And so I think for some people, let's see, I don't think most people can, which is why experts recommend announcing these changes with your social circle. That's another thing for people to keep you accountable, right? And that's part of why you tell them, so you can be kept accountable. When you feel like giving up, and you pull out a cigarette, someone is supposed to say, hey, didn't you say you're gonna quit? And that little bit of guilt also works as a reminder to, stick with your resolve, right? But in cases of weight, there's a bit of a difference, because as a lot of people point out, for an alcoholic, they can quit drinking. For a heroin addict, they can quit using. How do you quit food, right? You can't quit food. The other issue is, how do some people end up going through that? And I think there is a really interesting thought process. I don't know if it would fall under narcissism, but it's this idea that there's only been a handful of these people I've ever met. They want the benefit or the attention that comes with making a big change, making a big commitment, but they don't actually understand how to progress beyond that. And I don't know if it's necessarily an educational thing as much as it is an immaturity thing. I've never met a person like this who is mature in their other types of behaviors. And so the person who I was talking with is here. So if you want to, mention if that person at work also seems to be immature in other ways. I know for Amberlynn Reed, since we see so much of her life, we can see she's very immature. There's a lot of things she just doesn't seem to understand about a lot of different topics. And I'm not sure if that's necessarily an educational thing, though. She might blame it on that, but I don't think that's necessarily an educational thing. There have been people that this I've seen probably the most common announcement that people will make to try to get that kind of benefit of the attention is either they plan to enlist in the military, or they claim to have enlisted or served, or if they serve, they change the characterization of their service. So they'll say, like, I'm a combat veteran, even though they're not. They'll talk about different types of things they did, which they never did, So those types of people, again, they're not mature people, which is probably why there's not that follow through. I don't think they have enough maturity to actually follow through and make these like long-term decisions. I think that's really the issue. Foodie Beauty is an interesting case. I think for Jay, I think you may have pressed enter too fast, so I'll give you more time for that. Yes, she is interesting. I know she also had some issues with relationship immaturity, and quickly going into what appeared to be kind of a public Coca-Cola addiction. Read between the lines there, I guess, because I don't know. This is kind of what I've heard. I know more about Amberlynn Reed than I do about Chantal. I just have a hard time listening to Chantal because of the spikes she'll make for cackling, because she tends to laugh in sort of a honk, which it's fine. If I was talking to her personally, I don't think that would be an issue, but having a headphone in my ear, I usually have it in my migraine ear, if that makes sense. So that actually hurts. So I can't really watch anything with Chantal because that ha kind of thing she does, which again, I think on its face, it's kind of cute, like that sound, but having it in my ear is painful. So I don't really watch a lot of stuff with that. They are very good at pointing out other people's flaws, but don't seem to follow the guidelines or made solid arguments for themselves. That could be again a type of narcissism, which would be like vulnerable narcissism, where they're really afraid to talk about themselves. They're afraid to make those changes for themselves, but they're happy to point it out in other people because that gets them attention for being observant. It gets them attention for just kind of being the one who says what we're all thinking. There's a lot of that, I would say, in media, where people get some kind of praise for being the one who was brave enough to speak out. And maybe you would hear people that have this issue, they'll say stuff like, yeah, I'm a jerk, but at least I'm honest about it. Or they'll say, I'm not mean, I'm just honest. And if you don't like it, then whatever. I'm not mean, I'm just blunt. Some people can't handle the honesty. They'll dismiss it like that. I don't think if you have that phrasing, you're necessarily going to be a narcissist. Of course, I just think there is a lot of overlap with that kind of phrasing and those types of people, because for them, they just want to say it. And they want to get the attention for having said it. They want the attention for having made this public. And if it's a mean kind of thing that people laugh at, they want to be the one who supplied that laughter. And also they get to make somebody else look bad, which by contrast, they hope makes themselves look good. This isn't something I think is true with like most bullies or anything like that. And of course you can point out the flaws in other people and not do it so you can make yourself look better by comparison. It doesn't have to be that. I also don't like oh, they're only bullying that person because they're just jealous. Like, I think that's a very untrue thing that a lot of people say. I don't think they're necessarily jealous. I'm trying to think of what bullies would necessarily be jealous. I can't think of most of them. Usually it's to get other people looking at, or to get everyone looking at this other person so you don't look at my flaws, that kind of thing. Let's see. In her mind, saying it announces something is as good as doing it. Exactly. That's where I was kind of going with this. Especially for people that don't pay a lot of attention. So, let's see. About her voice, mostly follow the shop hit. So, like, with people like Amberlynn Reed, and I guess also Chantal, when you announce something to people who don't know any better. So these are people that just found the live stream. Like, some people will just find my live stream, and I've never seen them before. They've never seen me before, but just going live, you know, they'll find it. They don't know anything about me. There have been like a couple Muslim people that have joined, and they've accused me of being Christian, for example, because they just don't know anything about me, right? So if you were to come into my channel and I'm really, 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 really big, and I start talking about, I'm finally going to take my health into my hands, and I'm finally going to do this, and here's my plan, you're just going to believe me. You're just going to take it at its face, because you don't expect that someone's going to lie to you. Meanwhile, other people that are going to say, oh, yeah, right, you've promised this before, you're going to see them as being mean. Why are you picking on this poor woman? She's trying really hard. She's bearing her soul. And that's the kind of thing this person wants. They're not there for the naysayers. They're there for the people who will give them what they want to hear. The perfect example of this was when Amberlynn Reed had put a poll, I think it was on her Instagram, and had asked who wants me to resell my used earrings or my new, never worn earrings. And 30% of people said no, yes, but the other 70% were like, no, that's stupid. And she said, wow, I can't believe so many of you want me to resell it. Because in her head, that's all she really cared about, was that group of people was like 3,000 votes or something. So it was still a lot of people, but of course, way more had gone against it. And I think that's why people like to get that kind of attention from new people. So if it's not a person who does live streaming stuff, it'll be something like at a party where they don't know anybody. And they'll say something like, yeah, so my plan is to be a world-class lawyer. For some reason, they phrase it that way. I've never thought of a lawyer as like a world-class or world-famous lawyer. Right? Because if you practice law, it's a pretty narrow... You know what I mean? Like, if I get a law degree, I can't practice law in another country necessarily, right? So why would you be, like, you could be a world-class surgeon, I guess, where other people fly to you to have you perform surgery, but I wouldn't have someone, like, if I was a lawyer that was licensed in the state of California, I wouldn't have somebody flying in from Dubai saying, hey, I need you to represent me in Dubai, right? So I always wondered about that phrasing, because I've heard it specifically used, world-class lawyer or world-famous lawyer. But they think, wow, I'm going to get that adoration from it. And it's a little odd, I think. Has anybody heard that, by the way, that world-class or world-famous lawyer? Some of them have amazingly strong rationalization skills to support the continuation of their unhealthy habits or their barriers that keep them from succeeding. I would say so. And we were talking about how some people will blame, oh, I have this issue. So Amberlynn, she'll blame, I have depression, or I have anxiety, or I have binge eating disorder, even though she was never formally diagnosed with it. And again, I can't diagnose anybody, but just based on what I know, I don't know if I would say Amberlynn Reed has binge eating disorder. She may have food addiction, which is a little different, and I don't believe it's actually in the latest DSM. It might be. Where's my phone? I don't think food addiction shows up, but the difference between the two is which behavior is like the cause, right? So if, for example, if I am an alcoholic, I'm going to be drinking, and that's what I want to do. If I have depression and that makes me drink, it's going to look like I'm an alcoholic, but I'm actually not an alcoholic. I'm only drinking because I'm depressed, and this is how I am escaping from my depression. So if we took both people and started to give them treatment just by cutting off their alcohol supply, purely cutting it off, we would end up with one person who goes through, they might both physically go through alcohol withdrawals, but the person who has the alcoholism is still going to have alcoholism. The person who has depression and begins to drink because of that, that person's going to have depression. If we treat the depression and we let that person go, that person's not going to become an alcoholic or go right back to drinking, because the reason they're drinking is different. But for the person that has alcoholism, that person, if we just release them without treating the alcoholism, they're going to go right back to drinking. In the same way with binge eating disorder, when any type of stress happens, you mismanage it with food. Any food. Food that doesn't taste good, food you don't even like, old food, food people are throwing away. You might go and eat from that. You might eat off of plates for people if they're throwing their food out, and for some reason you're the one that's having to move the food into the trash. You might save food, you might hide food. So those are all like behaviors around binge eating, where someone with food addiction will seek out food specifically that causes them to have those highs. So something like that highly palatable snacks or fast food, for example. And if you present them with food they don't like, they won't eat it. They may even say, you know what, I'm just going to wait until later. So they'll actually skip a meal because they just don't like that type of food that was available to them. Whereas the binge eater will just put it in their face. So there's not, like the behavior itself, the reason for the behavior is different. And so I think Amberlynn kind of falls under that food addiction. For whatever reason, you know, is she trying to medicate with food? I don't know. But even if she has food addiction, binge eating disorder, that's not her fault, right? It's not your fault that you have mental illness, but it is your responsibility. And I think that's where the maturity comes in, where you have to recognize that's not fair, but this is the reality of it. I have to make it happen. Like in my case, recently I mentioned that I have to make some more changes because my body is breaking down in a new way, and it sucks, and I'm mad. But I know that once I'm done being mad, I have my backup plans. I've got ideas on what I can do for exercise instead, because even though I'm having these limitations, it's still my responsibility to stay in some basic level of physical health, right? For my physical well-being and mental well-being as well. It's still my responsibility. Does it suck? Yeah. Is it fair? No. But it is my reality. It's what I have to deal with. So that's where that maturity comes in. For like little children, for example, when something's not fair, they throw a tantrum, right? It's not fair. It's not fair. Unfortunately for adults, when they throw a tantrum, they can be very messy because we have the money to afford different things. So for somebody like a food addict throwing a tantrum, that's going to be a huge buffet of food that they're just going to bring to their home. It could be alcohol. It could be other drugs. It's going to be a very messy kind of thing when they throw that tantrum. They can do things that are kind of uncharacteristic because they're just trying to pull in more attention. Performative crying, so it's not really crying, but they act as if they're crying so they can receive the attention, again, like a toddler would do. Very woe is me, so even if they're not performative crying, they're going to say a bunch of stuff negatively about themselves in the hope or the expectation that just socially you're going to respond with, no, that's not true, no, you're fantastic, no, don't say that about yourself. Which is why I don't really like those posts that people share about, oh, you're perfect just the way you are. You don't know that. You don't know me, person who made this thing, and I'm not perfect the way I am. What a silly thing to say. So, hi, Cat Whisperer. Welcome back. It is great to see you as well. I do have one cat in here. He's the only cat that won't knock this setup over. The other cats will get very curious about this, and I think everything would topple over out of their curiosity. But the one cat, he's over there. Just being sweet little cheese bread, right? He's sleeping though, he doesn't care. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. The background is different. Yeah, I set it up a bit differently. Mostly so I could get this air conditioner, but it turned off. I think I'm gonna turn it on. Let me just turn it on. I don't have a leg in this topic. Have a nice night. Okay, cool. Then see you later. I don't know F. Lee Bailey. I don't know who that is. Where's the line between food addiction and straight up gluttony? I would say, again, the mentality. So for an addict, they're going to be kind of chasing that high, but also chasing that high to avoid something else in a lot of ways. So one of the problems with treatment programs, especially in the United States, is a lot of them aren't even licensed. Like, I could go open a treatment program in many states and just open it and have absolutely no background in anything. I don't know anything about anything. I could just do it. Okay, I could just do that. And when the person comes to a treatment facility, they're forced to get clean. And when you're forced to get clean, you go through all of these horrible withdrawals, and then you start having some kind of clarity. You're removed from all of those situations that were triggering your desire. So not only were you physically addicted, but there were mental stresses that would trigger, hey, I need to treat whatever's going on with my addictive behavior. So a good example is if you're stressed. Some people drink. And it becomes, well, it's just a way to de-stress, right? And they tell themselves that. If that's you, I would also watch when you would drink as other times you would drink. So for example, if you have a day off, like I have a day off, and you say, hey, well, I don't have anything else to do today, I guess I can start drinking early. It's not like I have to go to work anyway. That's a big sign. Okay. But for again, so for someone who's like stressed out, okay. For someone who's a glutton, if we were just to call that gluttony, I think that's more of a moral judgment that we place on other people. I'm wondering if anybody really is a glutton. Just a person who just chooses to eat a lot, completely to the detriment of their wallet and to their health. I don't know if anybody would choose that. Right? Who chooses that and doesn't have something else going on in their head? You know what I mean? Anytime you push a behavior to the extreme, and I was talking about that with my friend as well, it's normal for a human being to have like certain issues. You know, some people, like after somebody dies in the family, of course you feel depressed. Or if there's something new you're trying to do, like go skydiving, of course you're going to experience anxiety, right? When it becomes depression, when it becomes anxiety disorder, that's when it's to a point where it causes your life harm. It harms you physically, emotionally, mentally, or socially. That's when you can start diagnosing it and treating it, really, is when it becomes that. So for gluttony, I would say it would fit under that extreme, right? Because there's times, you know, when we all like to eat a little bit too much, right? It's the Korean harvest holiday this week. And so, yeah, of course, who doesn't like to eat a little bit extra, you know, especially if the food tastes good. Maybe you're having some alcohol, so you feel like you can eat more. You're with people. Maybe these are family recipes and you haven't gotten to eat them all year and you've been looking forward to it. And it's surrounded with like this lovely feeling, right? You want to eat that. I don't think a glutton does that. I would say a glutton would probably be a food addict. Who chooses, out of all the things to do in a day, let's order a bunch of food? and just do that, right? Why is that your hobby? Why is that your go-to? I don't think that would be, yeah, I think a glutton, I guess, would be a personal opinion on somebody else, like a judgment on somebody else. I don't think anybody would really be a glutton, like, oh, I'm just so hedonistic, I just want to fill myself with food. I don't know how accurate that would, or I don't know how common that would be. You know what I mean? Like if you're given anything to do in the day, you just sleep. And then to say the person who sleeps their life away to the detriment of anything else they could be doing, health-wise, social-wise, they're just sleeping. You wouldn't do that unless there's something wrong. Do you know what I mean? Whether there's something mentally wrong, it could be physically wrong. Maybe you have some kind of chemical issue where your body's like overproducing melatonin or something. I can't imagine somebody would just choose to do that and then say that yeah, there's nothing wrong, I just like to sleep. No, there's something wrong, right? Same with the glutton. Yeah, there's nothing wrong, I just like to eat. Like, well, you don't fit in the car anymore. We can't go anywhere. And anytime we want to hang out with you, we only have to do it at your house, and all you want to do is just order more food. I don't want to hang out with you anymore. That I don't think that's not normal. There's not like normal, healthy gluttony. I think you would be over-consuming for a reason. Yeah. Let's see. Who are you to say what's not perfect for somebody else? Yeah, and hopefully that kind of explain that. Yeah, that this idea that it's to your detriment. That's when we say it's not okay. Because if we're looking out like from a humanist kind of idea, like a humanist morality, we would look for what's good for people. And so if we see somebody causing harm to themselves in some way, we would say, hey, that's probably not a good behavior. Maybe you should fix it. Now, of course, it's not my responsibility to change that other person, nor is it my responsibility to constantly be on top of them and say, hey, this thing you're doing is really terrible. If it's somebody I really care about and I don't want to participate in it and I just have to remove myself from the situation, maybe I can do that. But to constantly be like, I don't like it that you keep smoking. You're smoking. That's not my job, It's on them to fix it, for sure. I was going to ask if we could say hi to your cat. You can say hi. Crook, Nike is saying hi to you. He's still sleeping. It was Choco's birthday yesterday, by the way. He's 2. It's very exciting. People like Eric Electric who will ride their bike for 50 miles and do the 10K calorie challenge with ease. I question the threshold between it becoming over-exercising and overeating and just an alternative lifestyle. I will say that for people who are like the ultra gym bros, definitely some kind of eating disorder. Absolutely. Absolutely. You don't do that. You don't push yourself that way. That being said, of course, it is interesting to see it, just to see what the human body can do. For example, there was a situation where I was talking with someone and somebody else had made a very low-level suicide attempt. Very low, like you weren't really trying kind of suicide attempt. And the person said, how do we know if this is genuine or if this is just something they're doing to get attention? And I said, if this is how they're choosing to get attention, we still need to give it attention. They could get attention any other way. They could learn a new thing. They could talk about a movie they saw. They could talk about a hobby they saw. They could ask you how was your day and just get into a normal conversation, and that's how they could get attention. If this is what they're doing to get attention, maybe they're not genuinely suicidal, but there's still something wrong and it's still something that's worth looking at. So I would definitely say for people that are pushing themselves why are they doing it that way, right? So it is interesting to see how far the human body can go, but what is your reason for pushing it to that extreme? And if that's taken from you for an injury or what have you, how does the person respond to that? So if they're just genuinely curious, like for the Minnesota starvation experiment, for example, there was a real reason for that. And it was just a genuine kind of curiosity. How can we answer this question? And it's going to help people for us to do that. Cool. But if it's something where you stop the person from that behavior for something, let's say they got a really bad injury, got hit by a bus, okay, and they survived, but instead of recovering, they start pushing themselves to get back into the gym, that becomes detrimental. Do you know what I'm saying? So when they're really starting to hurt themselves or hurt their relationships or skip work or go late to work because they're so busy meal prepping, so busy exercising, if you interrupt them when they're trying to do their 50 miles, but they could only do 45 miles, but there was an emergency at home, maybe their kid had to go to the hospital, and instead of being worried about their child, they're angry that they didn't finish those 5 miles because somebody had to interrupt them. That's, again, that detrimental to their social relationships. Yeah. Hi, Josh. How you doing? All this talking. Hola, Lee. It's always so nice to find you online. I try not to miss any of your chats. Thanks so much for everything you do. Thank you for the support, Juan Carlos. Thanks very much. I just had some free time today and started getting a migraine, but I was like, I already promised to come on, but now it's pretty okay. I feel like gluttony is taking on excess based on opportunism, and addictions is seeking so active instead of passive, like over acceptance instead of searching. Okay. Would that be gluttony? Or would that be... I'm trying... What I'm thinking in my head, because I know it's just like I'm just staring at nothing, right? I'm just not making any noise. So I'll just talk through my thought process so it won't be so boring. So I'm thinking, what is the difference between gluttony and greed and then selfishness? Because if that's what you're talking about, where, hey, we ordered, 3 pizzas for all of us to share, and one person just overconsumes it. I would say, why do you think you're that important? So there still would be this kind of issue where what makes you think you deserve more than everybody else, right? If everyone's supposed to have, we can have all 3 pieces each. Maybe that's how the pizza is cut. That's how many people we have. A couple people go out to grab some beers, go out to grab a smoke or something. They come back and they notice a lot of the pizza's missing. Hey, we only got 1 piece, 2 pieces, and now most of the pizza's gone. What the heck? And then they see the person there. Maybe they're that type of person that doesn't eat the pizza crust, which those people are evil, okay? Eat the pizza crust. It tastes good. So they've got all these pizza crusts, 7, 8 pizza crusts sitting on their plate. So we know who ate them. I would still say that's to a detriment, right? Because that's going to hurt your social relationships. And why? So I would still say that person has something else going on where the food is not the main thing, right? The food's not the main part. Because if it was, then I would say they would do that in their spare time too. They would order food, something like that. So if you're saying that it's passive, and that's how you would say to list gluttony, I would classify them under selfishness, and someone who's too selfish, right? Again, a little bit of selfishness is good. It's okay to set boundaries, and well, your boss asks you to work late and you've got like you got a doctor's appointment. That's okay to say. So it's okay to be a little bit selfish for sure. But yeah, that I would still say that's too much. Does that make sense? Again, sometimes this sucks because you guys are asking me questions. I have to come up with an answer, like questions I've never thought about, and I have to come up with an answer for it. So I tend to repeat myself because I'm trying to like, how do I want to say this? It's so much easier in text. So much easier. Happy birthday to Chaco. Chaco definitely appreciates that. I will tell him by giving him snackies. So I bought wet food and stuff, so Chaco was very happy about that. And many, many kitty drugs. That was just like, so that was a good time for him. Too much of anything isn't good. Yes. Nothing in excess, everything in moderation. I would disagree with that. I wouldn't recommend doing cocaine in moderation. Do you know what I mean? I guess I can say these words because I'm not worried about getting demonetized. I think that's why some people tiptoe around saying certain words because they don't want to get demonetized, but I mean, I don't monetize, so. Ate pineapple pizza today. Cool. It's a good time, for sure. Was it in honor of Chaco? And I noticed you guys are writing it all Chaco with an A, and I realized I should probably say Koreans shorten stuff to Choco instead of chocolate, because they say chocolate instead of chocolate, how we would pronounce it in English, because English sucks and it doesn't seem to follow many rules. So he's Choco like chocolate, not Choco like Choco Canyon. It's a cool name though, Choco Canyon. I just heard pizza, decided to tell you about my pizza. That's, I mean, as long as you didn't overeat that pizza, then that's a good time. And I didn't know if you're trying to troll people with pineapple pizza. I don't know why people don't like pineapple pizza. I love pineapple pizza, but I love pineapples. I do threaten my students with coconut milk pizza if they, because some of them don't like coconut, and I'm just like, that's sacrilegious. So, yeah. I know it's Choco. Cool. You didn't write CHACO, so I wasn't talking to you. Disgusting. Do I have to read it like that lady though? Disgusting. It's not disgusting, Zensei. You're disgusting. You may as well turn the 999 to 666 because that opinion is the Antichrist. Did you get COVID? Because it seems you don't have any taste. So that's it. That's the extent of my jokes right now. While we are still again on the subject, do you guys have any thoughts or questions about weight and psychology, or what could be happening for people like those obese YouTubers? Yeah. Pineapple pizza isn't bad. I mean, I would hope you say that because you ate it. You know what I mean? It is. I love the heart eyes cat emoji. Can I make emojis for my chat, or do I have to do the membership thing? I don't know if I want to do the membership thing. The members only one. Pineapple pizza is definitely a divisive one. Yeah, that's fun to be divisive on. Wearing a mask, I still don't see why that one's so divisive. What else is divisive? Not putting your religion into people's schools, you know. The Slipknot reference. I don't know if that was to me because I didn't make a Slipknot reference. Did I? I don't listen to Slipknot. Sorry. I don't like pizza and get told I'm not human. I definitely don't seek it out. I can see why people like it, but I think it's too much together. So if I eat pizza, a lot of people hate watching me eat pizza. I pick everything off. So I will pick the toppings off. And then if there's cheese, I'll pick the cheese off, and then like I'll wipe the sauce and eat that, and then I'll eat the bread, and then I eat the crust differently than the rest of the bread. So it's very, very different. Never tried chocolate on pizza. I haven't either. Trying to think if there's anything else on pizza that other people have enjoyed. Only the devil would deliver such a foul combination. Well, then hail Satan, because I'm eating my pineapple pizza. One reason for being overweight is just not knowing the amount you're supposed to eat and what effects eating or not eating this thing has. I question the people who say they don't know how much they're supposed to eat. Because I feel like something like that is so easily solved in modern society that I don't know if it would just be not knowing. I would say it's more apathy, not caring, until they're made to care for whatever reason. Maybe their favorite pants don't fit. They saw the doctor, they got some bad news from the doctor, or a stern warning or something, and now they care. Maybe they saw a picture on vacation of themselves and they're like, oh, I can't believe I let myself go. So now they care. So I don't know if I would say lack of knowledge. I would just say not caring. Yeah, because you can easily find that amount. And then knowing, how to eat. I would say knowing what effect eating or not eating this thing has. I would say that would be more of a knowledge issue. Yeah, for understanding things like, what does fiber do? Because I don't think that's an intuitive thing. Whether it's something you learned as a child and forgot, and so it should be something that, I know to look this up. This idea that, if I eat this fruit or I drink this fruit juice, I mean, both of them, if I eat 2 pieces of fruit or I drink this fruit juice, there's the same amount of calories, it's both fruit, so, they don't think that one of them might actually not be good because there's not any fiber to slow down that sugar absorption. That one I would say is probably knowledge, yeah. So you try to make decisions based on whether you feel like eating it. Does this feel healthy? Do I feel bloated or fine? Yeah, in eating, I would say is pretty difficult to do intuitively for a lot of people, I would say. The idea of intuitive eating, I might just need to do more reading on it. I don't agree with it from what I understand. So that may change in the future. I might learn more about it and say, okay, I just didn't know this thing. Now I totally agree with it. But from my understanding, intuitive eating is not to limit yourself, the idea to support everything in moderation. And that, hey, if it feels like I need a slice of cake, then I do need a slice of cake. You never need a slice of cake. I can think of one situation where you might need a slice of cake, and that would be starvation, right? Then you might need that slice of cake. So this idea of intuitive eating, I don't think that works, especially because that's not how we evolved, right? We evolved to just put stuff in our mouth. Did you die? You didn't die? Okay, and that's it. We just evolved to just keep putting things in our mouth. We evolved to seek out the most calorific things. That's what causes pleasure, that spike of sugar, that feeling of fat, that burst of like salt, the salt, of course, not with having calories, but of course we want that note in there if we can get it. So I feel like we can't intuitively eat, because if you give someone a lot of options, it's pretty difficult for them without prior understanding of nutrition to choose the food that's actually good for them. I think our ape brains, we're just gonna keep choosing the things that feel the best immediately, the instant gratification that feel the best. And we might not connect the idea that I feel really bad, I'm having trouble sleeping, I'm having trouble with this. We might not connect it with our diet. So I don't know if that's really an intuitive thing. I think you do have to learn about it, for sure. Which is why I quit that job that I was doing when I was working at a gym as a personal trainer, because I thought this should be, information on your health should be free. I felt so guilty charging people money, so that's why I quit. It's not even apathy. They actually don't want to know because it would bother them and recognize it's in their control. Condiments, supplements, oils, and seasoning make intuitive eating nonsense. One dish with almost the same volume could be entirely different calorically based on how it was made. That's true. So I'll touch on the first thing you said, where you don't want to know because it would bother you to recognize it's in their control. I don't know if I'm talking about those people. I'm talking about the people who just notice one day, for whatever reason, again, a photo, their pants are not fitting. It's the 5th time they've had to buy new pants this year. The doctor said something, their partner said something, their kid said something like that. And they realized, you know what, I've been letting myself go, let's fix this. So it wasn't really any other reason other than apathy. You know, yeah, I could go home and cook dinner, but, you know, I'm just feeling a little lazy today. I'm going to pick something up on my drive home. You know, some people like that. They don't have any other issues. And people like that tend to lose weight pretty well because all they have to do is, hey, well, you know, what am I learning? Okay, watch my calories. Okay, wow, I didn't realize that this soda had so many calories in it, but I could get this one that tastes the same and it's got 0 calories. I guess I'll just do that. And then they lose weight. So for those people, that's a little different. The people that are in denial, that's a different case. I would say that also falls kind of in with the binge eating. To pretend, there's a lot of that, I'm going to say the word performative again, there's that performative health eating on Amber Lynn's channel, but I did it in the past too, where you would pretend, oh, this is all that I'm eating, and then you would eat in secret when no one else could watch you. And then to other people who are watching me, maybe our friends would order a pizza and I would have 1 slice, but all my skinny friends would have like 3 slices. And I would say, gosh, it's not fair. You guys eat all this pizza and look at you, but then me, you know, whatever. But they didn't know about my stash of candy under my bed and I was eating that, you know. And I thought I was slick. Like I thought I was convincing them that I genuinely had a metabolism problem, which jokes on me by being as obese as I was, because I was in the morbidly obese category. That actually gave me metabolism problems, which have lasted and appear to be long lasting. So it doesn't seem, according to the research, it seems like this is just now a new thing to live with. It doesn't ever go away and actually gets worse over time. So now I have to watch what I eat, and I've had coworkers maybe comment on stuff like, hey, you know, you're not eating very much, or are you only eating this type of food? And I'll say yes, you know, otherwise I'll gain weight. I'm just very honest about it. Yeah, otherwise I'll gain weight. And they say, well, you know, you're not fat, you know, why are you worried about gaining weight? And I'm like, because I was like double my weight in the past, double my BMI. And the reason that I'm not is because I'm eating like this, you know, so, oh, okay. They seem to get it, which is good. Sardines in water versus sardines in sunflower oil versus sardines in vegetable oil. Same volume, different calorie intake in this nutritional value. Yeah. I agree. The other thing about the condiments and stuff, about the food calories being totally different, is health washing. That's another one. So for people that, when you hear buzzwords like whole grain, for example, then cereal, sugary trash cereal can put whole grains, made with whole grains. And so you see this and you think, oh, this must be a healthy choice. I know whole grains are healthy, so this must be healthy. And if you don't know any better, then that's it. But it's, I don't know, things have changed in society. I feel like we shouldn't use the excuse of I didn't know any better. Like, why don't you know better? This is such a important part of your day. You know what I mean? Let's see. So we're talking about anchovies and sardines, sardines and crackers, pizza with sardines, and a little bit of herring. Here, are you hungry still? Because I feel like you might still be hungry. That's all right, Summer. We've only been here for how long? An hour. Here I'm thinking it's been 20 minutes. I swear. I guess I can time travel without realizing it. I go forward in time at the rate of 1 second per second. However, I don't realize it. So it's accidental time travel. Definitely have metabolic damage from all the years abusing my body with eating disorders. Absolutely. Absolutely will do that. Not just metabolic damage, in terms of like the amount of calories you need and so forth, but also just how your body processes it, you know, the gastric dumping and all of that. Let's see. I went on vacation. I heard this all week on vacation. I told them several times, my body doesn't care that I'm on vacation. Exactly. I don't know why I was just thinking about that today, that phrase. Yeah, your body doesn't care that you're on vacation. You know, if you Like going on vacation for me is like, oh, let's try some new food. Because for me, it used to be let's eat everything as much as possible. Now I can try new things and I can buy things and not have to eat them right away. I can taste them. Okay, I like it. Roll it up, eat it later, bring it home. If I really like it, buy a couple more, put it in my suitcase. I don't have to open and eat everything at the same time, which sounds stupid. Like, how did you not know that? But again, it's one of those habits. It's the stuff that you don't realize. You know, you don't know what you don't know. So it's difficult, and again, it's you feel very silly about it. I think that might be one reason other people don't know what to ask and they're embarrassed to ask. So I feel like it's good to talk about it. You know, I don't know why we have such ignorance to like our own behaviors in a lot of ways. It is so strange, isn't it? Whole grains have valuable nutritional worth, but it's probably worse for losing weight than white bread because it would be higher in calories. But see, that depends, I would say. Because if you're going to have the higher calorie thing that promotes satiety, and so you're not going to want to eat for a few hours, versus something that doesn't promote satiety, that's lower in calories, you might be willing to eat more later, and it may balance out, or you may overeat because of that. Yeah. Willful ignorance is how that happens. I think in some cases, it's difficult because there's so many factors. And then it's our responsibility to figure out those factors. But how do we figure out the factors? How do I know what I don't know and then ask for help if I don't know, you know? I just got within my BMI range 2 years ago and above average health-wise last year. I would say doing excessive cardio stripped me of a lot of muscle mass and ruined my metabolism. Never rush to lose weight, people. I don't know how quickly you lost the weight. Muscle mass definitely is part of your metabolic rate for sure. But in that case, you could gain muscle again and bring your metabolism back up. Whereas in other places, when I would use the phrase ruin your metabolism, I would say that's a permanent thing. That's how I would phrase it, because I ruined my metabolism just by being obese. It was an interesting study for the Biggest Loser people. For the people who were just really obese, lost weight really quickly, they expected to find that let's say that you have the height of 170 centimeters, 5'7", female, 40 years old, right? So you have somebody that is my weight that never was obese versus somebody at the same weight who was obese. So the study they had expected, the hypothesis they were checking was that getting the person down to that weight would have an equal metabolism for somebody else that weight. So the weight, height, gender, age. Weight, height, gender, age, general body composition. You should have pretty much the same caloric needs. And instead, the person who used to be obese, their caloric needs were way down. It was something, I think the average difference was between 300 and 500 calories. So something like, to use the 2,000 calorie generic adult female thing, that would put you at between 1,500 and 1,800 calories, which we would consider to be diet calories, right? So somebody that always has to be on a diet. But over time, they kept checking the contestants, and over time they expected it to kind of, balance out. It went down. So if they were at 1,500, they were at 14, 13, or 1,200. That was their new metabolic needs. And that's what my doctor had found for me as well, that my metabolic needs are about 1,400 calories. And what? So I tell people, yeah, because of my previous obesity, I'm basically constantly on a diet, and that sucks. And of course, with other thoughts going on in your head, you always think, well, should I eat even less? Is it healthier to do that? You just kind of sabotage yourself in some ways, yeah. So lots of vegetables for me. I found this 40-calorie bread that made it so 4 slices was 160 calories as opposed to whole wheat bread, where 1 slice is like 130 or 140. That's true, but again, that's satiety thing, right? So let's say that you do have, in my case specifically that I'm thinking of, I was used to chronic overeating. So for me to say, okay, 4 slices are 160 calories, 1 slice is 160 calories, of course I'm going to want 4 slices because I want to pressure my stomach. But doing that prevents me from allowing my stomach to kind of shrink down. So in the case of the 4 slices are 160 calories, I mean, whether I would choose the 40 calorie bread or the 140 calorie bread, I would still only want to eat 1 or 2 slices. Specifically because I know my desire is to put that pressure on my stomach, and that's going to prevent me from shrinking the stomach, which is what I need to do to avoid putting so much pressure on my stomach and keep overeating. So having that like too much extra, that would be a problem for somebody in my situation. I'm frustrated and done. I was put on an oral and topical steroid. I gained 10 pounds. Nope, nope, nope. He can cut out the tattoo. It's difficult, yeah. So the steroids don't make you gain weight, but they can affect your metabolism. So the amount that you are eating now is too much. It can also affect how you process some things, like for certain kind of metabolic issues, you might process sugar a certain way without being diabetic. So you are able to gain fat a lot more easily, for example, from sugar. But if you don't eat that amount of sugar, then you don't put that fat on. Which again, it's like, okay, so what is this, my fault? And it's, for some people, it can be very discouraging. It's yet another thing that I have to be responsible for. Oh, just forget it. And sometimes we just let one thing slide, and for some people it is their weight. I wish to be 155, which means I have work to do. Have you been doing work? Is the question, Hero. Because I know you had mentioned it in the Discord, so just curious, what work have you been doing in the meantime? I can't imagine maintaining on 1400. It's evil. And then if you want to lose weight, you gotta go down even more. So it's like, yay. Yeah, it's not the best. Yeah, you think yours about 1300. Yeah, it's, I wouldn't be surprised if mine gets there. I feel like I gain on 1200, honestly. I would rather gain weight, to be honest. You know what? I've been morbidly obese. I have to disagree. That's what keeps me sticking to it, because some people ask, why, you know, how do you stay motivated? I'm not motivated. I just know what it's like to be obese, and it sucks. And just losing a bunch of weight didn't cure other issues, but it didn't add any other issues. So those other issues that were only because of obesity went away. You know, like, oh, I can't buy clothes at an average store. Now I can. So just those kinds of things. Yeah. Plus all those medical problems. Not good to have extra weight with all those medical problems. The glycemic index is another thing to consider. Yes, I would say so. And just how much fiber plays into that as well. Yeah. I love volume. I mean, there are times when you just get that urge. So broccoli for me. That'll do her. So 155 is your ideal weight because you're 5'8". Cool. But yeah, so what have you been doing to get there, if you want to share? Any off the head info about being underweight in the past affecting your metabolic weight? Yes, it depends why, but basically chronic starvation, where you are not getting enough calories, which puts you at that underweight. There is a thing called refeeding syndrome, which they found out from that study we talked about earlier, the Minnesota starvation experiment. The people, when they needed to, so when they finished with the calorie restriction portion and they said, okay, how long does it take to get these people back up to weight? They noticed they could not eat 2,500 calories. These were adult men, so 2,500 was the average. They were still losing weight on 2,500 calories. They needed to bump it up to like 3,500, 4,000, or even higher. Once they got up to their weight, then from my recollection, their metabolism kind of went a little bit back to normal, mostly back to normal. But you need, so basically if you've been chronically underweight and you're trying to put on weight, you need to really increase it to put weight on. As far as that's what the research seems to show. Yeah. Let's see. Also, if you are, again, it has to do with why you're not eating or why you're underweight. If part of that has to do with restriction or purging, like vomit purging, or laxative abuse, that affects your digestive system. So not necessarily your metabolism, but how your body is digesting. So if you're increasing, let's say that you decide, all right, I'm going to try for the 3,500 calories a day, and you just put that in, some of it might rush through your system very quickly. You might notice that you ate corn, and then 4 hours later it's in the toilet, which is very fast for it to be processed out of your body. You probably aren't absorbing as much as you thought you were. So you might have to increase it even more or change the types of foods that you eat so that way it kind of slows down a bit. I mean, it's a difficult one. It's like everybody loses. Overweight, you lose. Underweight, you lose. Everybody loses. I reached 200, 240, maybe it was 230. In any case, it wasn't good for me, and I was very unhealthy. Yeah, so I was just asking what changes if you have made some, or if you're having issues with them, you want to talk about it here, you totally can. 5'11", got down to 154, never again. I was malnourished and unhappy. That sucks. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. What's up, Lee? Didn't know you were streaming. I got a free day. It's a free day today. Otherwise, I'd be at work. Sadly aware, it increases appetite. I retain water way too easily. That's another one, yeah. The extra edema made moving difficult, a bad combo, so 10 pounds in a month. Ugh, that reminds me of that medication I was on, and I just puffed up. Like, people thought I had surgery done on my face. It was so bad. I put on about 6 kilos in 2 weeks. I was going crazy, just like constantly cutting my food, and the scale just kept going up. So I was showing this to my doctor, like, I'm eating like 130 calories a day. How am I gaining 6 kilos? What is going on? And so it was the edema. So we discontinued the medication, and it took like 2 months for it to go away. I was so mad because you put all this effort, and then just like one little thing. But yeah, moving gets difficult for sure. And just looking at yourself in the mirror, not good. I'm 161 to 163. It seems I maintained at 2,000 for my own empirical observations. Yeah, it's good to keep track of that. I just use MyFitnessPal, and I love it. It's really good to keep track of that. Let's hope things work out for all of us. I don't believe in hope. I believe in doing the work and just letting the math and chemistry do that. Do what it will. It's very hard to gain. I was told it was a chronic starvation. Other ED behaviors ended up lowering my BMR in the long term. Okay. So your BMR is lowered overall. Okay. If it's okay to ask, how long did it take you to get back to a healthy BMI, even just like the 18.5 BMI? And what calories did you have to consume? So did you notice you had to eat like 3,000, 4,000 calories a day so you could get back up there, or just out of curiosity? And again, you don't have to say. Start by increasing activity instead of cutting too many calories. Eventually hit the gym into resistance training for a 200 calorie cut. I think it depends. That depends. Because I noticed, again, working at a gym as a personal trainer, people have a tendency that when they are physically active, they will eat more, and they think it's okay because, oh, I burned calories in the gym, so I should eat more. Some people even reward themselves by like getting a McDonald's meal after going to the gym, or ice cream, or something along those lines. And it also, how many calories are you eating? If Hero is at 240 and is currently gaining because they're eating, let's just make it up, but let's say they're eating 6,000 calories a day, then starting to go to the gym, that's not going to cut it. So that's, yeah, I mean, you don't want to cut your calories like in half or anything. You do want to do something sustainable, but you have to know what the person is like going through. There's not, other than eat less, move more, there's not really a lot of generic advice I found that you can really give people. You have to let them explain why they're in this situation and then figure out how to get them out of this situation. A lot of the basics are the same, of course, cut calories, whatever, move more, sure. But what's their specific situation? So if it was somebody like me where I would just constantly keep eating food and I had like secret stashes of food, going to exercise would not do a lot for me. Yeah. You're talking about refeeding syndrome. Keep in mind that when someone decides to come out of fasting, can't just ingest a ton of bananas. Yes, definitely. Refeeding, like, it has to be done correctly, and do it with the doctor, for sure. Hi Nathan, welcome. Unless you've ever been obese, appreciate the difference in health and views. Rather than being able to move, than be morbidly obese ever again. Watching my intake is needed to have a highly functional life, for sure. Once the weight loss plateaus, you can cut another 100 to 200 calories, but I wouldn't recommend doing this back to back because you want to keep your metabolism as high as you can. Yeah, so it does depend on how much muscle you have, and so, unfortunately, the amount of muscle that burns calories every day, it's not a lot. It's like 1 pound of muscle, what is it? It burns like 7 extra calories a day, between 7 and 10. So if you're not a very muscular person, your metabolism ain't that high. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's just something to consider. Also, just a pound of fat, that's like 2 calories, I believe, it burns. So it needs 2 calories to sustain itself versus muscle needing 7 calories. Yeah. I lose weight really fast, so it's not going to take that much for me, but all I have to do is work hard for a week and then ease up because my metabolism will work faster. I'm not sure about that. For a week and then ease up. I mean, if that's really the case, then I would wonder how you got so far away from your goal, because you're close to, based on what you said with the numbers, you're close to 100 pounds overweight. So if it's just a simple thing, number one, why haven't you done it? And the second thing is, if it does really work that fast, I would get checked out at a medical research facility just to see why your metabolism works so much differently than other people. Yeah. Let's see. Hope is in a can at Walmart on the clearance rack. Last I checked. Here's the Hope. It's the 0-calorie drinks. That's another thing that stops me from eating too much, is like fizzy water and stuff. I recommend not changing the amount you want to eat, but being health conscious and doing resistance training so you can go through a body recomposition that'll pull from the fat you currently have, gain that lean mass, and then start observing your weight based on calorie intake. Again, so that has to do with how much the person is currently eating. So if Hero is currently eating 6,000 calories, advising them, well, you can keep eating 6,000 calories, but just kind of change it to healthy food that's still 6,000 calories. Do you know what I mean? So we do want to be careful with that. Because part of the problem is if somebody just follows that rule or follows your advice, and I'm not saying your advice is bad, I'm just saying we don't know their situation in particular. But if they follow your advice and then nothing happens, then they're going to say, I guess I'm just the type of person who can't lose weight and get discouraged. That tends to happen. So they put on more weight and feel like very helpless and don't know what else they could do. When I was in the 200s, meeting my weight, I found it difficult to breathe. My leg was hurting when I was walking, and I just worked really hard to lose weight. But didn't you say right now you're 230? Or was that in the past? Because if you're having that much trouble and you know that it's going to only get worse, why put it off, I was drinking 2,160 calories of something a day plus extra food calories. So yeah, 4,500 plus a day for quite a while. Interesting. I used to eat 3,000 a day and burn 1,000 in low state cardio, usually just getting enough protein to gain muscle again after stripping myself of some last year through the pandemic. Then that, no wonder why you had that drop though. Because if you're eating 3,000 calories and burning 1,000 calories, what's your current metabolic, like your BMR? Let's just say it's 2,500 calories, just average adult male, 2,500 calories. So now you're burning 3,500 calories, but you're only eating 3,000 calories. Do you see how that doesn't work? So when we're talking about burning more calories, we do have to also factor in the amount of calories you just burn existing. That's another way that we can accidentally over-exercise, if that's not your goal. YouTube gremlins at it again. Found you. Good. I'm glad the gremlins are working. I guess like and subscribe. I don't know. The algorithm likes it apparently when you say that. What happened was I was eating less, but I was also watching what I ate due to portion control. I cut out bread, cut out salt, cut out sugar. Okay, so it wasn't just working out really hard for a week, right? I have a boiled frog effect. Over time, if I don't watch it, I'll eat more than I need. It adds up. So tracking my calories and weighing myself weekly is just something I do now. Yes, definitely. I think a lot of us do. I think that's very, very normal. So if you know there's a problem, then figure out how to compensate for it. Whereas a lot of people say, well, that's just how I am. And if I put on weight, so be it. Oh, then be prepared to accept the responsibility that comes with all the other stuff, Hi, Chris. Please help lose my weight. Rats, did you have any specifics or I don't know if you're joking or not. I have a hard time telling if people are joking. If you're eating 6,000 calories a day, that's impressive. I would say you're meant to be big and you might as well utilize that gift to become the Hulk. That's Zen say no. That's like Amberlynn Reed. Are you telling people, the people on my 600-pound life, that they should just become the Hulk? 171 right now. Okay, so you're not 250, 240. All right. I have no idea what my BMR is. You can get that checked next time you go visit your doctor. Let's see. Because you can get it checked online, but it's just very general. It doesn't factor anything in. So yeah, you can do that. Being much less fat is much better. Yeah, I agree. Okay, you're joking. Okay, good. God, I cannot tell when people are joking today. I don't know what happened. I have bacon breakfast burrito a day. I modify the rest of my calories around it to gain or lose weight. I enjoy eating, so I work out to do that. Yeah, if that's what you want to be putting in your face and you also don't want to gain weight, you're doing it the right way, Absolutely. I know how to lose weight, done it before. It was honestly easy. Then I got injured a bit, lost the motivation, got into back habits, and gained a lot back. That's the problem right there, isn't it? Everybody knows how to lose weight, right? But how do I make it where I'm not being a sad times? I don't know. I think for some people, you just got to do it a few times to realize how much you hate it. So that way, now that I'm having this issue with this new issue, there's not going to be any I'll tell you when the doctor told me what's going on and how that's going to affect the rest of my life, the first thing I went and did was I just bought a bunch of bread. There was this bakery kind of nearby and I was just I just bought a bunch of bread. It's so stupid to say it out loud because of course that's not going to fix anything. And I was just I'm just gonna that's how there's those problems, right? When that stress happens, you mismanage it. And I was like, okay, this isn't gonna fix it. So I just didn't do that. You know, I shared the bread. Like, that was it. I didn't, yeah. Because I didn't want to be back in the situation where, okay, I'm gonna gain a bunch of weight again. Who wants to do that? And then have to lose it again, you know. So I bought it, but I stopped myself, and yeah, because I mean, you just go through that cycle so much, right? Just we're not putting up with that cycle again. Not putting up with that. Let's see. Animal life is just a front operation for the entropy mafia. We are here to create waste heat just by sitting around. Nathan's having a special time today. Let's see. Had to go to a specialist to find out. That's good that you were able to go to one, though. I love being relatively fit. I could do 3 pull-ups without a pause. There you go. I just bought a bunch of bread. Yeast incoming. My thing is sweet. Oh, it was sweet bread. No, they were like a chocolate. What is it? Pain au chocolat? I don't speak French, but the chocolate croissant. That's what it was. There was like an apple strudel bread loaf, which was like a bunch of apple in the bread. It was really good. And these like little, it looked like a little pound cake. Citrus, like the yuja. It was, yeah. No, they were sweetbreads. But yeah, you know, you share it because you want people to know. It's not like everything's smooth sailing over here, you know. That's what's good about support groups and stuff, which I have the Discord server like set up. I just haven't put it all together. I'm very sad. I heard that heavy steroid using bodybuilders eat around 5,000 per day, at least when building. Never looked at sources to verify it. That I'm not sure about that. But I will say that with the steroid use, it makes it so your body can repair muscle tissue better. So that over-exercising that would normally hurt people, you're supposed to do that. So you would need more calories in order to repair that. And then, of course, with your relative body fat percentage compared to the amount of muscle you have, yeah, it does increase your metabolism for sure. But for, I think, a lot of people when they're first starting out, they really overestimate the amount of muscle that they put on. So they'll say stuff like, "Oh, I gained 5 pounds of muscle in a week," and I'm just like, "You didn't." Oh, I did. I had, when I was working at that supplement store, I had somebody that insisted all I have to do is a few squats, and then I gained like 5 pounds of muscle, you know, from that. And I said, well, you know, a lot of people do gain some weight when they first start exercising because we tend to misjudge the amount that we're burning, and we tend to think that we need to eat more than we do. So it tends to blow up. No, I can't even pull up my pants, blah, blah, blah. There's just too much muscle in my legs and my butt. And I just looked at him and I said, well, then you need to go over to this, you know, a research facility so that way they can do a muscle biopsy because maybe you have something that can, I don't know, cure MS. And I just looked at them because now they had a choice, which was either to admit that I was right and they were not realizing what was going on. They could just say, oh, no, I was just being hyperbolic. Or actually go to the research facility thinking they are like a medical miracle and then getting told that in person, nah, you just fat. You know, it's one thing if you don't know any better, but it's another to completely ignore reality and supplement your own. Yeah, but I guess that's what they were there for, supplements, right? Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. When I weighed about 10 pounds less, I could constantly feel my abs. It was amazing. That's really cool. I like myself in the mirror now a lot more than I did. That's also good. Thinking about tracking calories as a long-term thing rather than just something I'm doing to lose weight has really helped. For sure. Just something that, hey, I know what's going on in my calories, you know, that's always good to help. Just like Jesus breaking bread. Oh my goodness. We're done. Delete. Look into the Michael Phelps diet during training. It's wild. What's wild is I've met people that have thought because Michael Phelps ate 10,000 calories a day allegedly, that some people thought, oh well, if he's exercising and he gets to eat so much, then when I go to the gym and walk slowly on the treadmill for 30 minutes, that means I can reward myself with a Taco Bell meal. Like, no. My exercise choice was cardio, specifically running, but of course I had pretty bad Achilles inflammation, so when I couldn't do that, I mentally gave up, and that was just a bad idea. Yes. Maybe you can't run. What can you do instead? What sucks is when it becomes less and less and less of a, you know, your choices become fewer. And so it's like, okay, so I can't do this, so what can I do? And then people will say, well, how about XYZ? No, I can't do XYZ anyway. So this is just something else on top of that. Was your doctor able to do a BMR test at his or her office? He was, but he's also like a surgeon, so he has like other stuff at his disposal. I'm not sure if like a clinic would be able to do that. This was like a surgical hospital. The target calories is for losing weight. The tracking calories is to maintain awareness. Yes. I think that's a good way to look at it. I'm using a BMR calculator. It says exactly what I assumed. It says exercise 6 to 7 days. I would need 3,000 a day, which is exactly what I'm doing, and I still lost weight. Yeah, that's why I'm saying 2,000 is for a sedentary lifestyle, which, no, I'm saying that if you're using 3,000 calories a day for that, based on the BMR calculator, plus you're burning an additional 1,000 calories a day, that's why you, like, died. Like, you lost a bunch of weight and felt really crappy, because you were burning more than you were consuming, right? So what do you have left, you know? Yeah, so either, but I think you figured out where you went wrong, so I don't think you're looking for advice, I don't think, right? Goal weight was sub 70 kilos, which might sound low even for me, but I don't have heavy muscles, so it was a reasonable goal. Most people don't have heavy muscles. And interestingly, the BMI underestimates fattiness. So for some people, they might be at the cusp between healthy and overweight, or overweight and obese, but their body fat percentage is actually way higher. It's like, now it's the unhealthy, you know, which I guess kind of makes sense because it's an average. So it makes sense to some extent. If I spend half an hour on the bike today, does that mean I only eat 5 candy bars rather than 6? Doesn't matter that it's a motorcycle. Yeah. The worst one I heard was that these 2 large women came in looking for weight gainer. And I was thinking maybe they thought like it was a Cartman thing where the weight gainers were supposed to make them gain muscle or something. So we kind of went through it, and they're basically, they wanted to, they were both really into The Biggest Loser, and apparently it was maybe coming through that state. They were looking for people, or they wanted to, I don't know how Biggest Loser exactly went. And they said that they were under the limit, or the lowest part, to qualify for Biggest Loser. So they wanted to gain a bunch of weight so they could qualify for Biggest Loser. I know. So as straight of a face as I could, because my way to do this, which I think I learned in the military, was just to repeat what people said, so they can realize it's stupid, but not tell them it's stupid. So I said something like, so you're telling me the plan is to gain a bunch of weight so you can maybe qualify for a show where you can hopefully lose a lot of weight. But if you don't qualify for the show, you've just gained 100 extra pounds and you have to lose it anyway. I'm just wanted to make sure that's the goal. Do I understand that correctly? And she actually said, you know, now that you say it that way, it does sound pretty stupid. And I just went, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? And they were completely serious. They were completely serious. Oh my goodness. Or somebody came in and he was looking for hydroxycut, real big guy, and I was like, well, you know, if this is a long-term issue, because he was kind of older, you know, it's like getting pretty dangerous at this time. I was like, yeah, you know, something that might help more is something like this, because your heart and, you know, could and blah, 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 whatever. And he's like, listen, I know how to lose weight. I've done it like 1,000 times. And I was just like, that's why. Because you're not following, because he was talking about just how he would drop weight and then just regain it, drop weight and regain it. And it's like, great, you're great at losing weight and gaining it back, you know. What do you want? You know, wouldn't you rather just lose it and then lose it and that's it? Just be done? Let's see. Sorry, if you scroll down, it jumps sometimes. I do heavyweight training in order to lose weight, and it does work well. Yeah, that was such a big deal for me when I first started losing weight. Yeah. Hope that my health has been fine. No, there's a new health problem and some pretty gnarly migraines this week so far. That's why I didn't do a live stream yesterday, actually. I missed my rowing machine, pop on a show or a movie and just row till it was over. That sounds like fun. I really want to run again, going to physiotherapy for it, but I can do more or less everything in a gym, even exercise biking. I can sort out my eating habits. If I remember, 70 kilograms is about BMI of around 23, so it could have aimed lower. Yeah, remember just to check your body fat percentage. That's really the thing you want to check too. Think about all the stuff you are able to do though. Because if you do think about it as, oh, I wish I could do running. Running's the one thing I can't, and that's the only thing I want to do. It does put you in a pretty demotivating headspace, and you might do it just out of spite or desire and then hurt yourself all over again. Been there. Like you covered, the tiredness is when losing weight. It was very annoying. I'm sure I could power through it, but that's a lot of extra effort to put in. It's yes, but it depends. I mean, it just really depends on what you're losing. You know, like how you're choosing to lose. It really depends. Yeah. Regarding what Nathan said, I have an exercise bike. Put on Netflix. That's good. Yeah. At this point, I'll be honest. Don't think people should fully rely on BMI. Who does? Who fully relies on BMI though? I feel like that's almost a straw man, right? Like who fully relies on BMI? As a reference point, yes, but you need to be honest with yourself, with your body composition in order to stay healthy. Yeah, that's why I mentioned the body fat percentage thing. I use BMI as a reference, but the goal was always weight related when it wasn't strength related. Walking triggers my Achilles pain. Yeah, then definitely do what you can to avoid that for sure. If walking triggers the Achilles pain, I feel like calisthenics might, depending on what it is. But yeah, like upper body, yeah, for sure. Can't run, might as well just sit down and get fat. My dumb brain. That's everybody's dumb brain. I think there was a phrase which was, if you mess up on your diet, saying, oh, who cares, I'm just gonna eat bad for the rest of the day, is like if you drop your phone and then you say, oh, who cares, and then you just smash it. I feel like, I'm like, that's something I think about when you have like a slip up with your food. My body fat had gotten into the fit range, and then the steroids thing happened. That sucks. I'm trying to get into it now. Want to be able to do pistol squats and hanging leg raises all the way to the bar above your head. That'll be cool. Definitely cool. You know what? It might be fun to track it, like do a video of it every so often, and then people can see your progression. You can see your progression too, which is definitely super motivating, I feel. Yeah. It's not short walks that trigger the pain. Power walks. Gotcha. Squats are fine. Oh, okay, good. That's great then. And that's good, you can do the short walks as well. Do you know how long the walks trigger the pain? Is it something that can be fixed? Like, just hope it's okay. I hate getting older. Because I noticed that some of you that have been with the channel for a while, it's like all these age-related problems are happening. Let's see. Time for a beer after coding all day. Alcohol is worse than eating for me. That's the whole other beast. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. Because I had mentioned something about de-stressing, and if that's what you reach for to de-stress. Is it effective? It de-stresses you, but then it's like, what did Homer say? To alcohol, the cause of and solution to all of life's problems, right? You're not worried about all the problems that come with alcohol while you're getting drunk, and then you just keep getting drunk because you're dealing with it that way. Yeah. I film my bench press progression, but I'm not too interested in making videos, not gonna lie. Yeah, totally. I mean, you don't have to be interested in making videos for sure. I just thought if it was something you were interested in doing, then I think it'd be really cool to see that progression. Yeah, it's not effective for your organs. No, not at all. I'm just saying the stress itself, it's effective. It's like nicotine is really good for anxiety, but you shouldn't be doing it, you know? But it's just what I explain to the students for, you know, why do people do drugs? You know, why is that something people do? And it's because they have an effect, right? They have an effect. And I don't think anybody starts off with saying, oh yeah, this is going to become such a huge focal point in my life. You know, no, they have an effect for sure. But that's the thing. If that's the reason you're using it, then what else could you be doing instead? And that's when you really have to start having hard talks with yourself. I split my walking into numerous sessions. That's good. The walks I've done have been 4 kilometers on asphalt. I also get 10-kilometer walks in the woods, and those feel so much better. So maybe it's the asphalt. It could be. I'm doing a 1 rep max, 250 on the barbell, and about 12 reps with dumbbells at 75. Nice. I want to get to the 100-pound dumbbells, but Planet Fitness only goes up to 75, and I'm not paying to go to a better gym. Isn't Planet Fitness against, like, the meatheads? I think that's how they call them. Can you do anything to improve bone density, or is that only possible with weight training? Like, impact cardio is something that can be done. But for me, I don't know. But yeah, like running, you can do that with running as well. That, like, impact to your body, yeah. Yeah, I agree that it's idiocy, Zensei. All of us are older people doing daily stretches, yoga, something like that. I spend about 10 to 15 minutes at the beginning of the day. I'm convinced I'll hurt myself at some point if I don't. Yes, there's a yoga stretching routine that I use. I had to change some of the arm stuff while I'm getting this thing treated, but doc says it's good. So it's gonna be that, and we'll see if I can do anything exciting with Tai Chi where I hold absolutely no weight. That's the rule. I can move my arms, but I can't use any weight. Curl the barbells. That's true, just out of spite. But no, I think what he's talking about is the dumbbells for chest flies. I think that's what Zensei's talking about. Yeah, what is older to you? I'm 25, yeah, definitely not older, right? But I would try yoga if someone personally instructed me. I'm too lazy to actually go out of my way and learn. You know what? I think that's actually a good approach. Not necessarily to be lazy to go out of your way and learn, but that you need personal instruction. Because you kind of think, oh, it's just stretching or whatever. You can try to follow along on a YouTube video, but if the instructor is not explaining exactly what you need to be doing, you can really not do it correctly. I don't know if you would necessarily hurt yourself, but you wouldn't get as good of a stretch as you should. It doesn't feel as good. I mean, even stuff like, there's this pose called ragdoll pose where you kind of like fold your body over, and your chest, like your torso, touches your thighs. And if you don't the person isn't like instructing and reminding you to totally loosen and like let your neck and head go limp, you'll forget. And so it's not as effective of a stretch that it's supposed to do. Because you will hold yourself and try to move, especially if you're working out your muscles a lot, because that's what you're used to doing. So there's a lot of like releasing the muscle, just kind of letting it, and then using the muscle to push the stretch. So if you don't have somebody like reminding you of that, it's pretty difficult to remember. At least it is for me. Oh, to be 25 again. I'm trying to think, what was I doing when I was 25? I was going back to school. I was still walking with a cane, so I guess I'm better in that sense. But I really felt like I could just do everything. I miss that feeling. Good yoga YouTube channels you can follow along. Rats, if you can recommend any, drop them in the Discord, in the exercise section. Yeah. Get a pack so you can do weighted dips. Who was that directed towards? Cool Tony. Keep practicing Tai Chi. If you're a good student, eventually you'll unlock Kamehameha. That's alright. Go to Hawaii and unlock it. 35. Still do HIIT, but it hurts harder. Yeah, that's the thing for sure. Yoga is boring. I fell asleep and I was banned from the class. I will never get it. You poor thing. I mean, if you fall asleep in corpse pose, that's a win. That's a win. So that's the only one. Yoga's helped me do more weight on the cable crossovers. That makes sense, because for the cable stuff, it's like a non-isolation exercise. You're using a lot of so there's the prime mover, which is like the muscle that's doing the main work. And then there's these extra like supportive cells called satellite cells. For people that have more testosterone, you typically will utilize the prime mover more, which is why like a guy will get like more of a peak in their muscle. Whereas for people who have more estrogen, you activate more of your satellite cells. So someone who's even equivalently strong, but is, female, their muscle is not going to have that peak. So if you're not used to working those satellite, like those supportive cells, doing yoga forces that. And so when you go to something like a cable crossover, you might not be used to using these little bitty guys here from like the bench press. So that might be more difficult. So for something like yoga that helps you with these little guys, then that's going to help you with the cable crossover. So it does absolutely help your strength as well as your flexibility. Let's see. Just finished my 48th lap of the sun for reference. Congratulations. Haven't tried any yoga. Someone I know just suggested channel. Oh, okay. Then maybe I'll find one that's helpful. Don't go hiking in Korea. Too much good food. Oh my god, and alcohol. They're not, it's not even hiking. It's like walking up a gentle incline. And then you get these like people, they're usually like early seniors, so 60 plus, and they'll wear all of this gear as if they're gonna go like conquer the Matterhorn or something. And they've got like hiking gear and these huge packs, like they're gonna get lost forever, and they need to have, water and a tent and whatever, right? So you go and you go with them, and once they get to this spot, it doesn't have to be the top, it's just the spot, they take off the pack and you see it's full of food and alcohol. I don't know. I guess it's a type of getting dressed up to go out to do a thing. Can't hate. The only time I hate on it is in the summer when they are stank drunk. You know what I'm talking about? You can just smell it coming out of their pores because they are just sweating that badly. And they've got their huge packs on the subway, and they're like knocking into people, or they're asleep on the subway seat next to you, and they start like leaning on you with their soju sweat. That's the only time that I'm gonna give hate, but it's not because they're all dressed up. So that's a no. That's a no for me. Let's see. Yeah, for me, 39. So 47. We'll all be in our 50s. Yeah, that's okay. We'll still be doing the YouTube. I mean, Summer looks 30. Wonderful. But what do you mean deal with it? What do you mean deal with it? Deal with the fact that she looks 30, or deal with the fact that, oh, you're 17 years older, because her body don't feel 30. Let's see. Fellow old person, a lot of 30 plus. I think most of the people here are 30 plus. I think so. We get the occasional like 25, 29, and there's nothing wrong with that. You guys are absolutely welcome. But I feel, yeah, there's a lot of younger people, like under 30 in the other like atheist groups. I feel like there's a lot of them. So it's interesting that we have a group like this. Sounds absolutely reprehensible. That's the word. That's the word. Reprehensible. Oh, it's just not. It's not. I don't know what it is, but it ain't it. It's just not good. Oh, it's nasty. It's nasty. It's so bad. And then they're either snoring and farting because they passed out, or they can get into an argument with their friend, or they're talking really loudly on their phone. And it's just like every possible way that you could try to trigger a migraine, they just touch on all of them. They've got to that level. I'm just an adrenaline junkie. I think that's the only way that I can live. Are you talking about the running, or the hiking and drinking? Why would they ban someone for sleeping though? I thought yoga. Oh, okay, I see. That's what you're saying. Made you chill. Might be Lululemon's crib. Yeah, no doubt. I don't know why they would ban somebody for sleeping. Yeah. Get real fat when you're 29, lose it at 30. No. I mean, I'm sure it was a joke, but don't do that. Don't. Because you got extra skin, and even if you get surgery, it never looks right. Is public drunkenness and street brawling a problem in South Korea? Not the brawling. Public drunkenness is not, I wouldn't say it's a problem, it's just a reality. It's just a reality. Because like if this was alcohol and everybody knew it was alcohol, like it was obviously like a beer container or a bottle of whiskey, I could just go outside and drink. It's not illegal. That's it. There's some like rules, like you can't. I think I can't crack open alcohol in a convenience store, but in the tables right outside of the convenience store that the convenience store provides, you can drink right there. But for some reason, you can't drink inside. Yeah, that's like those kinds of rules. Don't drink at a school, those kinds of things. But if I want to go like drink at a park, it's just whatever. But street brawling, I don't think that much. Shouting can be a thing. That's annoying. But, I mean, it's way less common here than it is in the US, and the population density is way higher, so that's good. There's more people packed together, and they lose their cool a lot less, even when they're drunk. I know it wasn't fun, but I miss your mostly daily streams from last year. Love freeform discussions with this group. I know, what do you mean it wasn't fun? I think it was fun. Are you talking because it was in the middle of the pandemic and working from home? Yeah, that part wasn't fun. But I had a blast. I thought it was a good time. The atheism thing died on YouTube many years ago. Is it because it's more accepted now, or do people grift it into the ground? I don't know if it died. I think the atheist community of Austin or something, ACA, they're still around. I still see like daily YouTube videos or something popping up. I don't know about grifting it. I don't know where people grifted or how people grifted. How would you grift it into the ground? Do people I know some people made like merch. That was it. Merch and like a Patreon? I don't know. How do they grift it? Oh, well, you told him it was boring. Well, then that was... I'm just imagining you falling asleep in like the middle of a pose and like leaning over and maybe hitting somebody on accident and waking back up, and then someone's like, excuse me, did you fall asleep? And you're like, yeah, this is boring. And then you're just, okay, well, if you're gonna fall asleep, you just can't be here anymore. And you're like, whatever, caffeine. That's I'm digging it. No drinking at schools. Those kids would have received an education for the ages had it been allowed. No. No drinking at like the elementary schools and stuff. You shouldn't be doing that. Yeah. I don't know about college. I don't know. I feel like it still happens. I mean, college kids drink. I just don't know if they're allowed to drink in their dormitory, you know? But they drink for sure. Yeah. How much pressure builds up when the body is holding in a fart? Because I'm pretty sure it's a lot. There's times you can feel a huge difference in volume. I think it depends. I really do. That one, I don't know the answer. I just remember one time I was in a lot of pain. Like I had thought I had a really bad stomach ache or something. And it was too much. Like I couldn't stand up straight. It was just so much. I was, I don't know, 8 or 9 years old. So my mom was called to take me out of school. Hey, maybe there's something to take her to the doctor, whatever. So she wanted to go shopping before we went to the doctor. I don't even know if we were gonna go to the doctor, but she wanted to go shopping first. And so I just remember like I was holding onto the cart, like bent over and just kind of letting her pull me along as I was like shuffling. And then I let out this huge fart and suddenly everything felt better. I could stand right up and I was like, I looked at her and she started laughing and she's like, well, that's where the pain was coming from. Okay. Let's see. What do you mean atheist YouTube is dead? There's a ton of new shows. That's what I thought. For me, YouTube atheism has gone from militant activism to educational religion mythology videos, like understanding how religions work and the creators of them meant and thought at the time. That's kind of what I've noticed as well. I'm trying to think if there's anybody that still does the activism stuff. It might be Telltale, but I think it's because of how he's targeted, at least in West Virginia. The big atheist YouTubers aren't pulling the views they did years ago in reference to grifters, mostly speaking about atheists that tied social issues into their brand. I think of grifters as like scammers, so or like trying to make money. So that's why I didn't think about that. I don't know about social issues. I don't know if I've really talked a lot about social issues. Other than the COVID stuff, and only sometimes. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't know why, honestly. Now that I think about it. I guess I feel like it's like not a video that necessarily will make sense later. I think live streams, those are different. Those are people interacting. I don't really expect a lot of people to actually rewatch live streams, except for like the Book of Enoch stuff, because it's just about the Book of Enoch. But like this one, I don't think anybody would watch it again. But yeah, I don't know. So I feel like, why would I make a video and like go through it and do all the stuff, the prep that needs to go into it, and then, oh, that issue isn't really an issue anymore, you know? And some of that stuff doesn't age very well. Sometimes, you know, you only have and you can't fault them, but everybody does, right? They only have partial information, and then when more information comes out, they're still held to the thing they said on a video from when they had only partial information. You know, like imagine supporting Kevin Spacey and saying how great of an actor he is, and oh, some people, whatever, and he made this joke, isn't it fun? And then finding out later that Kevin Spacey did all this stuff, and you had no idea. But then you have this video, and people still try to be like, well, didn't you supported him, and he's a bad guy, but you so totally supported him. Like, well, maybe you supported him when you didn't know he was a bad guy. I don't know, people are weird. It's like they don't realize education happens and you can change your mind about stuff. Like I changed my mind. Like I understood more about the cultural appropriation concept. I understood it more. I understood more about Black Lives Matter, so I'm glad I didn't make a video about that. But yeah, you know, so you can learn over time. I feel like, I don't know why we're so ready to cancel everybody. You know, I don't know what that's about. I feel like people cancel other people because they're worried that they'll be associated with somebody that has been canceled, and then they'll get like the negative stuff from it. So like Rationality Rules, there was this issue about transgender sports competitors like in the Olympics, and so he made this video, and a lot of people didn't like it, and so they tried to just like cancel him immediately, and everybody was bad, and they started getting on like, I forget who it was, I think it was the ACA or Talk Heathen or something, because they had him on and they didn't delete the video, and they're bad because they're associated with him. And then he releases this other video that's like, let me try to explain what I meant, and then everyone's like, oh, it wasn't that bad. You know, but you don't, it's like you're guilty by association. And I don't know, I feel like maybe it's an extension of the lose 20 pounds in 2 days with just this one simple trick. You know, it's like make yourself relevant for the time period by just canceling this person. I don't know. That's just, maybe I'm wrong, but that's just kind of how I see it. Should some people be canceled? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But is it like, oh, we misunderstood something? Or, because I had some people on my Tumblr yesterday or something, and I mentioned about the Abrahamic religions being pretty bloodthirsty and they spread by the sword, and I had mentioned it's not just Christianity, but also Islam and early Judaism. And so some people were saying, you know, Judaism is only 0.2% of the world population or something like that. It's not the same as Christianity and Islam. I'm like, no, that's why I said early Judaism. I'm not talking about today's Judaism. And so they had repeated it. Somebody else said, you need to listen to Jewish people when they talk. Someone else said, your anti-Semitism is showing. And I was like, okay, I'm going to say the phrase that I always butcher, but don't assume malice where like laziness and lack of eloquence could be, you know, is more likely. And then I went and explained, like, this is all what I was trying to say, but it's my fault for not elaborating on it, but here's all the stuff that I was trying to say. I don't see why, like, they jumped to anti-Semitism. Like, if I was saying something negative about 3 things, and I was saying the same negative thing about 3 things, so Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, they all got the same critique. I don't understand how they can pick one out and say, you're targeting this group. What? So it didn't really make sense to me. And I could have been like, you're an idiot, but I just thought, well, it's probably better just to explain what I meant, because it's my fault. I didn't explain what I meant. You know, and I appreciate when people point this stuff out instead of just like, oh, cancel this person. I don't think a lot of people should be canceled. I don't know. I guess we forget that other people are people, but there's also some idea that if you have a YouTube channel, that you're somewhat of a, like, either a celebrity-ish, or you feel like other people should follow you, or that you're some kind of guru or something. And so if that person does something bad, it's especially bad because they're the ones presenting themselves as like a guru, and they're, you know, I'm not. I'm definitely not a guru or a celebrity for sure. So I think people kind of forget they're just regular people, that this is the hobby they chose, you know. The Amazing Atheist did a video whining about firefighters doing their jobs better these days than 50 years ago. Not a very good look. Why would they whine about that? I don't understand. That sounds good, right? Isn't it good that firefighters are doing their job better? I have that experience in my early 20s. Thought it was food poisoning. Yeah, I never got food poisoning except that one time really recently. Let's see. Again, this chat jumped. I don't know about the views. I see tons of content from all over the spectrum socially. A lot of these people are on the spectrum socially. That's probably why. And I say that as someone who's likely on the spectrum. I don't feel very connected to atheism because I'm a bit spiritually inclined. I just don't believe in a God necessarily, so I'm still atheist. I mean, that's part of the reason that I have this channel too, is so other types of people can talk, you know. Be spiritually inclined. I mean, I was gonna have fun with tarot cards if you guys wanted to. Not that I believe that they're anything special, but I just think it's fun, you know. But you mentioned, oh yeah, I always carry tarot cards with me, and people make all these assumptions about you. Do you guys have any questions you want to ask the cards? Just for fun. Let's see. Pretty much how it was like the stages of relaxing, and then it's dark in here, and then falling asleep. Exactly. We drank often on the campus grass. When I was in college, for 50 cents I could get a bottle of soju and a bag of crackers. Man, that sounds good. Just like the cheapness of it. Let's see. At least a good hour of the Enoch study in the last 4. I still have to finish editing that because I have to edit the end of it as well, because we kind of went off there. So yeah. Yeah, it was more than an hour. It was like an hour and a half, and then the end, it's like another 30 minutes or something. So it's like, it's only like a 2 or hour and a half long stream, legitimately. When I say social issues, I meant anti-feminism and anti-SJW, which was the social issue. Oh, okay. And again, you know, I get that with the anti-feminism stuff. Yeah, I definitely misunderstood it, you know, and I have those videos where I talk about how I misunderstood it, in a way, because I still feel like people that, how do I want to phrase this? I wonder what else we can do with feminism socially. Legally, I feel like we've done as much as possible, legally. Socially is different. And I feel like if we just say that this person hates women or something, it's such an easy thing for people kind of to twist and say, no, this woman is just bitter, you know, what have you. But if you just say, wow, this person is a jerk, you know, and you just point out just in general, this person's somehow an animated piece of garbage, and you just point it out like that, as opposed to saying like they're a jerk in this specific way, I feel like that's more impactful. But I could be wrong. But yeah. As opposed to anti-SJW, I think part of the issue is there's a hate for change. But on top of that, I would say it's always the most sensational stuff that gets brought up, right? Nobody hears about a social justice warrior that wanted to make sure a campus where they attended school carried a vegetarian option. And the campus was like, oh, you're right, because it seems that we have this many % of vegetarians, and that's more than we had before. Thanks for bringing the issue. And then it just gets changed. Nobody talks about that. They talk about random, like the what is the issue about somebody opens a door for a woman and she screams at him that that's sexist. I mean, does that ever happen? I've never seen that. I've never done that. I've never seen it. I've never done it. Those are, I think, the issues that people think represent whatever the social justice movement is. Because if you think about it, what's wrong with wanting social justice? And what's wrong with being a person who supports social justice? But I've used it in the past too as a negative, like, oh, you're an SJW. I started telling my students something that I had to learn, which was, if it sounds really unreasonable, you probably don't understand it and need to check it out. Because most stuff is not going to be wildly unreasonable, because most people are not wildly unreasonable. And I think there's some arrogance and I wouldn't consider myself an arrogant person, but still there's that level of, well, I have more of this education, you don't, and so it's almost like not arrogance because I'm so great, but more like, well, you just don't know as much as I do, which is arrogance, but I didn't understand that, you know. So this idea that, oh, I'm rational, but most people aren't, right? Most people aren't rational, but I'm rational. And so that puts me in a position where I'm less critical of my own failings, and then puts me also in a position of looking down at others. And then if they say something, or if I hear something that sounds really outrageous, I'm just willing to believe it, because I already told myself these people are just not as rational or logical or whatever as I am. And it's not like a overt thing. I think it was definitely just like a subconscious thing. So it's something to really consider. So anytime you hear something like exceptionally insane about SJWs, I would just look it up. You know what I mean? There's also a feminist group here called Megalia, which I might be mispronouncing, but their option, or their plan of attack, is to point out misogyny by taking the same statements and then just turning them around. So there's like gold digger. There's an equivalent for that in Korean. That, or like trophy wife or something like that. It's really negative. It's like the woman is very stupid and she just uses men for money, that kind of stuff. I guess trophy wife isn't exactly like that, but gold digger would be like that. So they just used it, the same word, except for a man. And a bunch of men flipped out. And they tend to get painted as hating men. But really, because they'll take like a statement out of context and say, look, they want men to this, this, and this. And they'll just take it out of context. But really, they're saying it in response to all this stuff the guys have said. And they're just taking literally the same thing and just changing the genders around. And then people flip out about it. So it's like, okay, so are they really this crazy? Is it just a bunch of crazy women being so angry at men and super crazy? And then you read about it and you learn about it, and it's like, oh, no, they're just taken out of context. Which, you know, if that's how they want to make their point, so be it. But are they making their point if that becomes what people know about your group, is all this stuff taken out of context? You know, so is that really working? It's a good thing you didn't go to the hospital. Imagine what would happen when they try to use the probe and the pressure releases right into the doctor. Oh my gosh, can you imagine? That's terrible. I feel like they maybe would have pressed on the stomach, just because, you know, a child, oh, it could be appendicitis. I feel like when they would have done that, I would have just probably been Hi, Oscar. Thanks for the support. As a black person who doesn't support BLM, and I also don't support ALM or feel comfortable participating in the grand effort to not understand progressives in lieu of traditionalism and conservatism. Yeah, I mean, in the case of Black Lives Matter, it's just traditionally, which continues through today. Black people in places like the United States, their lives are not considered as important. There's doctors that still think that black people don't experience pain as intensely as non-black people, that they are exaggerating, and if they're exaggerating, it's to seek medical attention, or to not to seek medical attention, to abuse medication. How that, what was he? This guy was what, some 17-year-old who had gotten his rifle, went to another city and was shooting people, and they spoke to him very calmly and arrested this guy, where somebody doing that, if they're black, they're just going to get shot. That's kind of the issue. That's why it's like Black Lives Matter, because that's the issue, or that's the group that's being targeted the most. That doesn't mean that, you know, black lives are more important or that other lives don't matter, but it's more just to kind of highlight that we want to say racism is over, but unfortunately it's not. Yeah. Amazing Atheist was a good example, but he has turned. Obviously can't tell if it's also a grift. I'm trying to think of something he said that I just remember I was just wondering about it. No, maybe I'm thinking somebody else. Mr. Atheist? Is it the same person? I'm sorry, I'm really terrible at this. There's like a couple people I know. trying to think of any atheists I've heard that have any anti-SJW or anti-feminist leanings. I mean, looking, I only find the reasonable ones. Possibly, but again, I did have an anti-feminist video as well. Same thing with the cultural appropriation thing, which is an SJW topic. Yeah, and again, I've since understood the topic a little bit better. Yeah. I think traditionalism died, isn't coming back, nor should it. It didn't work in the first place because it was predicated on idealism, not reality. That's true. And I think traditions should, you know, why do we still have them? Is it just a cultural note, and is anybody being harmed? Do people still benefit from it? So, you know, just because it's a tradition doesn't mean it's worth preserving. John Travolta was hospitalized for suspected COVID. Doctors now confirm it was only Saturday night fever. Get out. Get out. I don't watch any divination videos or anything. It sounds fun, right? Hot take, automatic doors are sexist. You say these things when you stop going outside and live through social media. These people have lost a grasp on what's average or normal and use scenarios that are improbable, using outliers to get more traction. I almost feel like that's not new. Maybe just more obvious because of social media. I don't think it's new, though. Yeah. Racism isn't over, but I don't place much emphasis on what's left of it, to be honest. Yeah, I think it depends a lot just on your personality as well. My uncle, he never seemed to make his race an issue ever. And when he got pulled over for driving while black, I had asked him, weren't you so mad? And he's like, what's that gonna do if I'm mad? Okay. You know, who do you get mad at? Do you complain to the police? Like, who do you get mad at, right? So he was just kind of that way. But then when one of his kids had come home and said, what's up, he lost it, and he's like, I didn't go through all of this and work so hard for my own son to come home and call me that in my own house. You know, I think that's the only time I ever heard anything about him and race, ever. And that's just who he was. To him, he was more, I guess he was different than a lot of, he had a different experience, I think, than a lot of people. He went to the military. He got an engineering degree, worked for Boeing. He worked for Area 51. He lived in a very different neighborhood that was only around like affluent other black people. So like doctors and dentists and other engineers. And I, growing up, had misunderstood, especially with stuff like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I thought black people were rich, and that was the stereotype. That's what I thought, because that was what I saw. So I remember when somebody had mentioned on the internet, like early internet, they said, you know, when black people move in, it brings the housing price down. And I was like, how? Because it makes your house look worse by comparison? Because black people take care of their homes really well and their lawns really well, and they got a really nice car, and you're just mad because you don't make as much money? Like, I didn't get it. So that could be why those things didn't bother him as much. It could just be his personality. He was very relaxed. The fact that he got mad at his son for that, like when I found out he got mad, I was more surprised that he was angry, as opposed to that of the situation. I was just more surprised that he raised his voice, because he was such a calm guy. Like, out of everybody at like a family reunion, he was the one that was the most unbothered by anything. You know, you're a kid and you're bleeding all over the floor. You got your aunties, you got your mom, you screaming, your dad's yelling at you for getting blood everywhere. And here was this uncle. He would just go, it just happens. And that was it. Come on, let's get you cleaned up. And that was it. That was all. Like, he was just so unbothered. So for him, if he were around now with the whole Black Lives Matter thing, I think he would just not get it. He just wouldn't understand why people care so much about it. But I think if you're growing up in a really different situation, you know, like he lived right next door to his brother And both of them had these really nice houses and beautiful view and all this other stuff, you know. Other people, maybe they lost their brother to some kind of racist violence or something, you know, and they don't have that opportunity to live next door to your brother, and both of you are really successful. Somebody like that, I think, would definitely understand why they want to be part of the Black Lives Matter movement, where somebody else might not. So maybe that makes some sense. Oh no, Lee, you started reading that joke and you read all of it. It's terrible. Let's see. I think a couple of you guys are talking. Be mad at the system, but don't let anyone know unless you're prepared to do something about it. I mean, why even waste time being mad if you're not going to do something about it? Not knocking social media, just prefer real life. Easier for me to understand, I think. It's easier for me to understand jokes than if it's on social media. My goodness. Unless I really know you and I know your style of typing, it's really hard for me to miss jokes or to get jokes that are in text. It's really obvious why the housing prices go down if you think about it a little. I guess you're gonna have to spell it out for me. I didn't know the poor black person stereotype until I was in college. Okay, so it wasn't just me. Wow, Summer, I swear, we're like sisters from a different mister. Yeah, I always felt like, how come nobody else had that? I couldn't be the only person with this experience. So that's good. On the flip side of your experience, I grew up in a 99% white rural community with cops on TV, never knew a black person, and was wired to be prejudiced due to environment and media. I've met guys like that in the military, and it's like they had this prejudice, and then when they enlisted, they realized, oh, it was a lie. But there was one guy who was really extreme. It wasn't like he was an extreme racist, but the way he grew up was really extreme. There was just a very small town, all white. Everybody knew everybody, very small town. And, you know, seeing stuff like Cops and things like those shows, he would ask, you know, his dad, why are there so many black people stealing things? How come there's so many black people on these kinds of shows? And his dad gave him the information that, oh, it's just because, you know, just mentally, they just cannot comprehend things like math or operating heavy machinery. So the only option they really have to survive in today's world is stealing. And his son was like, oh, okay. You know, they can't operate computers. They can't operate a forklift. Oh, okay. So what else could they do? Okay. So that was it. It was just such a really casual racism, if that makes any sense. So when he enlists, like the first person checking him in is a black Marine on a computer, and he's like, huh. And then he sees another black Marine operating, we call them dark green Marines, by the way. Everybody's a shade of green. So he sees another dark green Marine, and he's operating, you know, one of the heavy equipment stuff. And he was like, I think my dad was wrong. And then that was it. There was no, again, it was so weird because it wasn't like hateful. It was just, oh, you know, it's kind of like with pigeons. We trained pigeons to be our messengers, and now that we, you know, had the telegraph system and all these other systems, and of course now, obviously, with the connectivity that we have, we don't need pigeons to fly things back and forth. So they're just in the streets, and that's just where they are, and they eat stuff off the sidewalk, and that's just it. That's it. And that's kind of how he thought about it. Oh, so my ancestors brought black people over and made them work, but now that those types of jobs have all gone away, because now we're using equipment and stuff, they're just there eating stuff off the street. Like that was just his thought. That's what he believed. I've never met anybody else who had that. So to me, that's very interesting. I hope I don't know what happened with his dad. Like, I hope he told his dad, but I think that was very interesting. Let's see. Yeah, because they make it uncomfortable to live there for the people who don't belong to their race. Uh-oh, Flavius. I guess if you're uncomfortable because someone's a different race, that sounds like it's not their fault. That's your fault. Yeah. So you should ask yourself, why you feel uncomfortable? This person has a different skin tone or a different eye shape. Why would that automatically make you feel uncomfortable? Um, you might find that someone's racist, ableist, xenophobic, gay, transgender, etc. online, but know them IRL and not be able to see it. Some people live double lives. Yeah, that's true. Because, you know, and I tell my students, nobody's 100% evil, you know? Somebody who's, you know, says something like that, they may feel comfortable saying something like that to the void or in a place where they feel they'll get approval. Like certain platforms that might encourage that, or certain hashtags where it brings in people that are like-minded. But maybe you would know better socially not to bring it up. But then I think there's other people that they have a different way to present themselves to different places and different, you know, different social situations. So maybe at home, like for kids that live in abusive homes, for example, some of them have a very hard time trying to communicate that they're being abused, because to everyone else, the parent projects this very like kind, friendly, loving personality. And when they try to explain like, oh, well, my parent is doing X, Y, and Z, the people are just like, oh, you must be misunderstanding. You know, that's not what somebody like your mom or somebody like your dad doesn't behave that way. So they don't actually believe the child is being abused, even if they communicate it. So it's really, people are just gross. That's why I want to study them. Because they do things like make you uncomfortable, like play very loud music and fight all the time, litter. They do this consciously and subconsciously. They don't want you in their little ghetto. It's their territory. Again, I'm not sure if like you're trolling or what. I mean, if I can, so are you talking about like if somebody moves to one of those neighborhoods, or are you talking about a black person moving to a predominantly white neighborhood, and just by virtue of them being black, they are filthy, violent, and loud? I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Because I mean, if I don't want to live in an area that's got a bunch of people playing loud music, which again, I don't know why it's specifically black people, because let me tell you, a lot of Latino people where I used to live, and also white people, like on college campuses, they do that. They're very littery, play overly loud music, and get into violent fights all the time. I don't move in there, you know what I mean? If I can avoid it, I don't move there. So it is a little bit surprising that you would only associate it with like one race, where I've seen it with a lot of different types of people. And of different socioeconomic incomes as well. So that is different, yeah. I think the crime statistics are out in the open. So that's another thing about like the Black Lives Matter stuff as well, because it kind of points out the difference between how people are viewed as criminals. And so if you feel like you identify with somebody more, then you're likely to give them a lesser sentence. So if it's somebody who looks like you as a person that's a white judge or in a white jury, a lot of times, unless the crime is particularly heinous, you're more likely to downplay it. Also, if it's stuff like possession of drugs, and you're not routinely stopping random people, but you're routinely stopping black people or Latino people, for example, then it will appear that they do more drugs than the average person. But again, on any college campus, you'll see white people do a lot of drugs. So, yeah. It looks like we're having trouble with the Hangout, with the YouTube, because of the race stuff. So it's like blocking a lot of your comments. So I'm gonna show the comments. Just remember not to use profanity, but I think you don't associate this behavior with just black people. Okay, then if you don't associate with just black people, then I guess my question was about race and how they look different from you. Yeah. Let's see, my neighbors are Vietnamese, Honduran, Mexican, African American, and white like me. I don't have any issues of noise or trash related to my neighbors. Yeah, so that's why I was curious. Maybe Flavius is just talking about like specific turf or groups, because again, I wouldn't move to a place like that. right? That's not what I would do. But we weren't talking about that. We were talking about a black person moving to a non-black neighborhood, and you mentioned that, well, it kind of makes sense if you think about it, why the rate what's the word, the property value goes down. And so now you're explaining the opposite, where it would be a non-black person moving to a specifically violent ghetto. So I'm not sure what you're talking about here. Who wants to live in an area with a lot of crime? Nobody does, but we weren't talking about that, right? We were talking about just a very average neighborhood, and then a black person moves in, and you mentioned the property value automatically drops. But the example you're giving isn't that. So that's my question, I guess, is what, I'm not sure if you're making the point you want to make, or if I misunderstood. It's mostly socioeconomic. I'm a white software engineer. I'm not going to move into a white neighborhood that is 80% under the poverty line. That's true. I was talking about people being loud and violent. People that go to, like, can afford to go to university tend to be middle class-ish. Of course, there's differences. But those are people that you wouldn't necessarily associate with, like, gang violence or living in a ghetto, that kind of thing. And they're very violent, loud, and drunk. Yeah. Racism is universal. I don't get mad at anyone in particular. One thing I say about it is, you know what, there's plenty of reasons to not like a person. You don't have to make one up about their skin tone, you know what I mean? Let's see. Black people mainly antagonize other black people statistically. The ghettos are dangerous, but your perspective is biased because you're in a particular environment. Perhaps. Like, I mean, I'm not saying the first part, but I feel like Flavius was trying to say that one black family moving into a non-black neighborhood, it makes sense that the property values go down. And then when I asked to explain, Flavius mentioned all black ghettos specifically. So I'm not tracking. I'm just not. My town is very ethically Swedish, aside from a small group of houses, apartments. Meanwhile, my workplace is a huge mix of cultures and races, and I like my coworkers. I think exposure, that's a big one. Like that military stuff that I mentioned, I used to say, you know, every racist should join the military, because then you realize stupid comes in every color. And it's the same with sexism too. Like, the more that you're exposed to people, you realize, oh, you know, these people that look like me are also very useless and stupid, and this person here who doesn't look like me is actually doing their job really well. Maybe I just really hate useless, stupid people, regardless of how they look. Yeah. Unless you want to do the introspective work to understand why you have these prejudices. That's true, which is, I don't know if that, I mean, that's a big ask, because I don't think Flavius came here expecting to do that, but it's cool if you want to. I'm a homeowner and only name my property owning neighbors. Our neighborhood is experiencing a wonderful boom in people focusing on improving their homes. My property value is nearly 2 times that last year. Cool. I don't own a home, so I'm sure that makes a lot more achievement sense if you own a home, but I'm still happy for you, so that's good. Exposure is huge. Software is doing so well with other races. Need to catch up with gender. I would say other races that are Asian, to include East Asian and South Asian. Not necessarily West Asian or African, and maybe even Eastern European. Maybe. It depends. There's a lot of people who talk about, like, white people as if it's like one group, but just like Asians are not one group, neither are Europeans. And there are still groups that receive a lot of hate. The Roma people, sometimes the Irish, and even people like in the UK will get upset if somebody's speaking Welsh, because they think it's like some foreign language. You don't need to do that I have black friends basically. You believe what you believe. It's okay. Stand on it. No, I don't think that was Ratz's point. I think your comment was to Ratza. I don't think that was Ratz's point. I think Ratza was trying to say, I grew up in this society that was X, but now I work in a place that's Y, and it's not a big deal for me personally. So the idea that I had mentioned, where that guy had grown up in that X, and then he's exposed to Y, he had like a sudden revelation. And I think that's what Ratz is saying, is like, maybe that's not true for everybody. For Flavius. Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. They had stopped typing, so I'm not sure what they're thinking. But I would be interested, yeah. I knew a white girl with a drug problem. She got stopped by cops all the time. Sometimes passed out in her car with paraphernalia, and they kept letting her go. Yeah, that's another thing. Being female, especially if there's a male police officer or a male judge. That's one of the reasons Judge Judy is so fun to watch, because she just does not allow anybody to do anything. Like, she's very no nonsense. Anybody tries to cry, she's like, not here for it. Anyone tries to look pitiful, why are you making your face look so silly? Here you are on national television looking like an idiot. Whereas something like that may work more, not saying that oh, just because you're a man you can be easily manipulated by a woman, not saying that, but that there's that cultural push that men should be kind to women automatically. Even if a woman hits you, you should never hit her back. That kind of trained, it's okay to receive abuse if it's from a woman. As a man, you should never protect yourself. You should always protect women, is like the underlining the point. So I would say, if you see a woman who is passed out with drug paraphernalia and you're a man, if you follow that kind of social belief, then you might be more willing to have pity on her, as opposed to want to lay down the law, where you might do that to a guy who's found the exact same position. Yeah. I have some Central and Eastern Europeans working for me. They are brilliant, but they also have excellent educations, so I'm only working with really awesome people. That's good. That's definitely one good thing about Eastern European people. I don't know these days, but I know definitely from like the Eastern Bloc, when it was Iron Curtain, there was a lot of really good tech learning and stuff, and science learning, which doesn't excuse any of the atrocities that happened, of course. But I do appreciate the push for education, yeah. People act like profiling doesn't make sense. Cops are biased based off experience and data. Men are more inclined to be violent and engage in illegal activity. It's logical to not expect much criminality from women in such demographics. Well, I agree with you. The thing that we're talking about that is the crime is not the violence. It's the fact that there's a person who is using an illegal substance, they should be arrested. That is the law, right? It's not, oh, this person's so violent. It's, hey, I saw somebody passed out and they've got drug paraphernalia. I can tell they're super high right now. I should arrest them. If it was a guy, I would have arrested them. So it has nothing to do with how, like, the perception of violence or shooting the person preemptively. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about just arresting someone just for doing a crime. And that is one of the reasons that the black crime statistics seem overly high or disproportionately high. It's because, and same with men, that men appear to be more violent than women. Really, it's because women's violence is not considered as bad. You're not a real man if you report it, things like that. So for a variety of reasons, we don't have all the people that should be arrested being arrested, and we have a lot of people that shouldn't be arrested being arrested. I think we should also reevaluate why it's illegal, and what should we do if it's illegal, and how do we deal with it if it's illegal. So, because drug use is not cut and dry, I'm sure you guys know that, though. Let's see. Racial profiling doesn't make sense to me. It honestly does in certain regions. You know what? I will say, being a foreigner in Korea, I try to make sure that I look like I'm following the rules as best as I can, especially during this COVID time. Because we're the ones that look the most obvious, right? Oh, and they don't know that I've lived here, right? They don't know if I just showed up yesterday and I brought some Delta or Lambda or whatever variant that we don't have in Korea, and I brought it here. They don't know that. So for people to be wary around me, okay. But all of the outbreaks happened from, with one exception, all the outbreaks happened at churches. And the other outbreak was at bars. All of them were majority Korean, if not 100% Korean. And that's seen as, oh, well, you know, that's just how that is. But if a foreigner does it, it's like the end of the world, you know? So it's not just in the US, it's not just versus black people or whatever. There's a lot of like anti-immigrant stuff that happens. And that's, I think it's its own separate issue. There's a fear of immigrants. There really is, you know? And that would have made sense in the past, like when we're tribes of 20 people, we don't know who this person is or what diseases they have, but you would think something like that might change. But hey, we're still eating ourselves into death because we can't figure out not to do that. So, you know, we've got our dumb ape brains. We sure do. We sure do. According to you, the cops should stop and search Chinese grandmas as much as 18-year-old black guys who dress like thugs. Am I understanding this correctly? Are you talking to me? Or I don't, because I never said anything remotely similar to that. So you must be, I don't know if you're talking to somebody else. So please please tag the other person if you're talking to them. Let's see. You're talking to me. When did I say anything like that? I was saying that people get searched. I didn't say that Chinese grandmas should be stopped and searched. I mean, you're talking to somebody who gets stopped and searched, first of all. You should just know that. But no, I'm saying that, like somebody said, you want to stop somebody for probable cause. You don't want to stop someone because they're black. Like my uncle got stopped because he was black. That was the only reason he got stopped. Because he was a black man driving at night in a Cadillac. That was the only reason he got stopped in a very affluent neighborhood. They just thought he didn't belong there. They thought that this can't be where you live. But for other cases, you know, it's people that are just stopped. So again, you would want the probable cause. That's the issue. Driving because you're black is not probable cause. Yeah. It's like saying, I would love to live among Iraqis. What's stopping you moving to Iraq then? Flavius, can we have the conversation that we're having? I feel like you're trying to use some of these talking points that I've heard before. Like specifically, I've heard people say Chinese grandmas. I've specifically heard that phrasing. So I feel like you're trying to maybe default to some like handy phrases. Like when I encounter someone who challenges my statement, these are the things I can throw at them. Like, let's just try to have the conversation that we're having. I never said any of that. I just asked you to justify your statement, and you still haven't, which your statement was, if a black family moves into a non-black neighborhood, the property values go down, and that makes sense. And I just asked you to explain what you meant, and you still haven't. So can you please just try to stay focused on that? Yeah. It's racism, but that doesn't mean it's not understandable. I agree. However, part of the problem is that this lets other people, like we're putting too much focus into one group. So you already explained it. No, you didn't. So I asked you, let's go through this again, because I've asked you about 3 times to explain it and why what you said wasn't an answer. Oh, they turned their area into a ghetto slowly. How? So that is what you were saying, that just by virtue of being black, automatically these people who moved in will automatically turn the area into a ghetto. That regardless of how much money they make, their education, their background, their culture. Maybe they're from another country, right? Regardless of that they're automatically going to behave like a very specific subset. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, like, do you realize that doesn't make any sense? That you're saying that automatically, just because this person is black and this other person is black, automatically they're going to act like the one you don't like. Do you see how that doesn't make sense? Why a ghetto is a ghetto? Are you asking why is a ghetto a ghetto? Because that's actually very in line with my bachelor's degree. So is that what you're asking, is why is a ghetto a ghetto? Like, do you want to learn about that? Because, I mean, it's cool, but do you want to learn about that? So I'll give you the example of Detroit, because Detroit is a very famous ghetto. In the case of Detroit, this was built around, it was built really around a car. And it was kind of designed the way Paris was designed. So we've got like this middle area, these really big boulevards, and these little offshoots here. Back in the past, people that were in the city, that was where all the cheap houses were. Just because the factories were so polluting that the only people who could live there are the people who couldn't afford to not live around that pollution. So you get like these factories, right? Let's just say that there's two of them here. And then around the factories, you have these homes. And these are people that maybe they're making some money, but they just can't afford a car. Cars are very expensive. And then Henry Ford had this idea that if you're a worker, then you can start paying for a car. So you can get the car, and then instead of paying for it outright, some of your pay will get docked until the cars pay off. Cool. So we have people that are poor, and we have people that are middle class. Now they're existing. The middle class doesn't want to live around all of this pollution, so they end up moving to here. But this is where the rich people used to live. The rich people are upset. Now these middle class people are moving in, so they move out to here. And as more people are able to move out, the only people that are left in the middle are the people that are the absolute poorest people. So in this case, where we can talk about ghettos that were created, especially like Jewish ghettos, for example, in Europe, those were specifically created and people were funneled into this area. But in the case of a place like Detroit, it's like a de facto ghetto. So it just became one. Over time, people were able to move because, again, if you had money, you just left. And so now there's like these really old houses that are quite large, and there's a lot of people squatting in them because they're just open, they're just empty. If you don't have a lot of money in that area, you don't have a lot of taxes to use in that area. So things like school, other types of public services, those are not as good. So again, who wants to live in an area where the school is not as good? So now you are a teacher. Do you want to live in that area where your pay is not as good and there's a higher chance of violence? Poverty is the reason for violence, not skin color. So poverty is the biggest factor when we're talking about violence for the average person, not for like antisocial personality disorder. Who wants to move there? Nobody. Who wants to teach in that area? Nobody. So you get people that are horrifically poor, don't have any educational opportunities, don't have many opportunities to even leave the neighborhood. What's really your only option that you believe that you're qualified for? A lot of times it is selling of drugs. A lot of times. And you don't do it because you're a bad person. You don't do it because you're just unable to be educated. You do it because that's literally the only thing that you believe is an option for you. I mean, there's people that live in these ghettos in Detroit. They're called hyper ghettos because they're so confining that you might not even leave your neighborhood, let alone the city. And Detroit is actually on a river. There were people who live in these hyper ghettos who have never even seen the river in their own city. So that's one way that these ghettos can happen. Another way to put people together was this practice in the US called redlining. So redlining is this practice where you literally just say, we're not allowing black people to live here. And that was an overt practice. You could just do that. Now it became like a less overt practice. But that's how we get those areas where it's just black people living together and it's just white people living together. How did that happen? Just historical. That's how it happened. And again, you tend to not leave, right? As for like loud music, trash, that kind of stuff, again, that's a culture, like a ghetto culture. It's like a culture within the larger city, right? That's just what people do there. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that every black person is automatically in the ghetto. Again, I mentioned that there was European ghettos that had focused Jewish people, Roma people, for example. There's also ghettos for the Chinese people, the Chinese immigrants that were brought over to work on the transcontinental railroad in the United States. So that had also happened, and that's where we got zoning from, because the idea was after the railroad was finished, all those Chinese people would go back to China, and instead they just didn't. They kind of hung out, they got used to being there, they just wanted to live there. That's how opium became illegal, because this way you could have a reason to arrest and deport somebody as if they used opium, which is pretty common among Chinese immigrants, more so than the general population. And also the idea that if you own a business, such as like a restaurant, you would live above the business. So now that we moved that for zoning, now this is a zone for businesses and this is a zone for residential. Now the person can no longer afford to live there. And so this is where that happened. So this is how we get these ghettos, right? And these ghettos exist all around the world. They are socioeconomic, not necessarily race, but there are ones that are also based on race. That does not mean that just by virtue of being born into that skin color, that you are automatically going to behave in a way that is common in ghettos. That's not what that means. That just means if you're born in a ghetto, there's a high chance that you're gonna stay in a ghetto. So that's why I was mentioning before about that black family moving to another city. A black family from the ghetto isn't leaving the ghetto. So you don't have to worry that they're gonna ghettofy the neighborhood. They couldn't afford to leave the ghetto. That's how they're in the ghetto. They can't afford to leave. So that's some of the big problems. Also, the reason why like a lot of black youth seem overly interested or overly making basketball or rap as a goal, because again, that's something that is presented to them as an option that doesn't require a lot of money or a lot of education. So that's why it seems like if you go do a documentary or something, like every child wants to grow up to either be like a basketball player or a rap artist. That's the reason. So hopefully that's the condensed version. So that's the condensed version. Your comment here, let me just see just your comments real quick, just to make sure. So you had mentioned, why do you think only black people are so poor? They live in those ghettos. So they're not. So by the way, yeah, they're not. So I hopefully you got that. Maybe you posted that question before. I had mentioned the Chinese ghettos, the Jewish ghettos, the just generic, hey, I'm white and I'm poor ghettos, which we call like a mobile home or a mobile park, right? Mobile home park. That would be a white person ghetto, right? So we kind of push those groups out. So it's not just black people. As far as no social mobility, to sell so much drugs to be rich and move out of the ghetto, that never happens. I can't say that's a 0% chance of happening, but I will say that the amount of money that you can make selling drugs is not as exorbitant as you would imagine. It's not as high. So if we talk about like the amount of money a kilo of heroin could cost on the market. But if I'm like a small-time drug dealer, I'm not selling a kilo of heroin. I'm not acquiring a kilo of heroin. I've got 2 or 3 baggies. I might be able to sell that for the night. I can pay my rent and I can get a hot meal for my family. That's kind of it. So you never really make a ton of money in those really small situations. The people that we're looking at that make tons of money in terms of like drug dealers, these are like the bosses, like the higher up in the cartels. And these are people that don't live in the ghetto anyway. They can own their own land because they have enough money. The people that are in the ghetto that are like working as like the sellers of the day-to-day drug use they're not making a ton of money, because again, the people that are buying it are also as poor as they are, you know? So if I sell 10 bags at $10 each, cool, I just made $100, which to me is a lot of money today. For one day's work, $100, wow, that's so much money. Is that enough money to move into like a nice area? Not at all. That's enough money for me to, again, get my family something to eat. That's about it. So that's why it's not realistic to expect that you could make tons and tons of money selling drugs. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. Any business can grow. It can, but again, if you are business minded, you are going to know not to behave in a way that tips you off as an illegal business owner, right? So if I'm going to be a person who sells drugs and I start making tons and tons of money to the point that I can leave the ghetto, I'm not going to bring the ghetto with me, because number one, I wanted to leave the ghetto. I don't like living there. I don't like the poverty. I don't like the gun violence. I don't like the loudness. I don't like the trash. I don't like the broken windows. That's why I left the ghetto, right? I don't make my house nicer in the ghetto. I leave the ghetto because I don't want to be in the ghetto. So why would I bring the ghetto with me, right? So that, first of all, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Second of all, if I bring the ghetto with me and I'm black and I'm moving into a white neighborhood, first of all, I'm already a target. I'm black. I'm already a little wary. Are these people racist? What's going to happen? I'm going to do everything I can to be as milk toast as possible, right? I'm going to be as not offensive as possible, because I'm doing an illegal thing. I'm still selling drugs illegally, now on a larger scale that I could actually afford to leave the ghetto. Why would I draw attention to myself? But again, remember, the big take home is I left the ghetto because I don't like the ghetto. Why would I bring the ghetto and expand the ghetto? That's why I left. Okay, so we'll go and read the other comments real quick. Well, black people were coerced into ghettos because of slavery and opportunities were slim to none. That's true. And so again, acquiring property is huge, right? And if I can acquire property and pass it on to my kids are now born into money, and we can keep passing this on or keep making money. So if I'm born into a family that never had property, automatically I'm already born poor. So that puts you at an automatic disadvantageous, is that a word? Starting point. Hopefully that helps. All right, then what's your explanation? Why do housing prices go down? Is it just racism? Unfortunately, there is something called white flight. And this did happen, especially during the race wars in Detroit in the 1960s, towards the end of the 1960s. So this was this idea that if I can afford to leave, I'm going to, for whatever reason. So if I can afford to leave, let's say that a black person moves in, and let's say there's 10 people, let's say there's 20 people who live on the street, 20 homeowners. And let's say that 5 of them are racist, and they really hate that people that are black have moved in. They are too critical of them, so, you know, maybe somebody playing on the street at night, they hear it as children that are too loud, they're making too much noise, because we do that for groups that we don't like, we're overly critical of them. Okay, so they're doing this extreme thing. Oh, but these little white kids, yeah, they're being loud, but that's just child's, you know, laughter of a child, right? Plus the 5 people were maybe already thinking about moving. Now they really want to move. Now 5 people left. Some of the other homeowners might be wondering, well, why? It might be harder to get people to move in for, again, whatever reason. So the price of the house will drop. That way we can resell the house. That's kind of how this happens. The opposite will happen with gentrification. So there will be people that move into an area because it's poor, but they actually have money, like art students, for example. And so they'll slowly bring up the, we'll bring up the housing value at the cost of the people who couldn't afford to live anywhere else now being priced out of their home. So there is an opposite that happens, and that's called gentrification. Which is just, I would say, just as terrible. Yeah. Let's see. That's true. Flavius is right. It does matter what part of California. But remember, Flavius, I was telling you about my uncle's family. They were all black, and they lived in a very expensive part of Southern California. The neighborhood was all black, living in a very expensive part of Southern California, and they had nothing but money and beautiful lawns and large pools and really lovely cars, you know. So just by virtue of being black, it didn't mean that they were going to ghettoify anything. And again, if you look outside of the United States, or even just in different states that have different demographics, you're going to find, like, for example, Dearborn, in Michigan, to go to Michigan. Michigan's got a lot of classic stuff for like city studying. Those are areas with a lot of Arabic people, and then especially right after 9/11, a lot of that kind of dropped down. So there are other parts of Michigan, like Ann Arbor, that are very affluent, and there's a lot of what am I thinking? Stuff. Like there's a lot of homes and parks and green space compared to a place like Dearborn, which just looks very open and sparse. At least it was when I was studying it. Yeah, so hopefully that kind of explains it too. So it's not a black ghetto. And again, just there are ghettos in China, and they're not full of black people. There are ghettos in Korea, and they're not full of black people. There are ghettos in Japan. There are ghettos in all of these other places that are not full of black people. So a ghetto is a place where we push people for whatever reason the wider society has allowed them to be here or has forced them to be here. That's what a ghetto really is. And that's why I mentioned the Jewish ghettos, and also the Roma ghettos. So these are ghettos that are non-black as well. So just by virtue of being black doesn't put you there. And just by virtue of being Eastern European or Romanian or Jewish doesn't mean that you're going to live in a ghetto or behave in a quote-unquote ghetto way. So this is again, this is more of a byproduct of social issues and also economic issues, but not of skin color. Because humans were just not that genetically different, that being born with a different skin tone is going to make that much of a difference to your brain development. Yeah. So hopefully that explains it. But if you have more questions, of course, please ask. Let's see. Whoever knows the question, there were Jewish ghettos in 1930s Germany. Were they created before or after the US black ghettos? They were created after, but the Jewish ghettos were like before the United States became a country. Like the Jewish ghettos extend back. Like the idea of hating Jewish people in Europe did not start with Hitler at all. Hitler was drawing on these like centuries old hatred of Jewish people, like with the Crusades, going to defend the Christian Holy Land against the Muslims. Some people thought, why are we sending people to another place to defend against these religious invaders, the Muslim people, when we have Jews living among us now? So they had pushed them into these ghettos already. So way back in, like, you know, the 11th century, 12th century. And then in the 14th century, when we get the Black Death, all these people were getting sick and dying horrible deaths. But because we had funneled the Jewish people into these separate ghettos away from the cities, Jewish people weren't getting sick. That means that they did this to us. They've done something. They've poisoned us. They've cursed us in some way. So these ghettos extended way back. The hatred of Jewish people in Europe also extended way back. So this is not like a new thing. Ghettos existed way before the United States was even a country, let alone the concept of a black ghetto. These existed for forever, really forever. When we go way back to the first planned city that at least we know about is a planned city, which is Mohenjo-Daro. There's still sections for people that are rich and sections for people that aren't rich. And there's more trash in certain areas than there are in other areas. You know, this goes back to literally like 5,000 years ago, you know what I mean? When we can look at a city that was not built organically, but built planned. There were ghettos. I mean, this has been around forever. So to suggest at all that it has to at all have anything to do with the United States, with black people in the United States, it's really not it. It's just the evidence does not point there. There's so much evidence to the contrary. Yeah. The YouTube channel, Not Just Bikes, is a great examination on car-focused infrastructure. Oh, that's interesting. I would say it morphed into an unhealthy, toxic mindset. The self-defeating prophecy of staying trapped in our situation. Absolutely. But also for people that grow up in places like the United States, where there's sort of an idea of like a white majority or a powerful white majority, pockets of immigrants, but also pockets of people that are non-white. It's almost like any little thing that's part of our culture, if you got rid of it, that's bad. One example is being atheist in a black community. Even though Christianity was forced upon their ancestors and forced upon my ancestors, us leaving that ancestor murdering religion, that's bad, because now it's part of our culture. And so if we reject that, then it's this perception that we're rejecting the culture. Veganism is another one. To reject certain types of food means you're rejecting our culture. How dare you? Are you trying to fit in with the white people? I mean, how many of us have heard that? So this is, I think, one of the other problems is you almost feel like, I'm not sure if I can make it away from this. And I know if I try, I'm going to be rejected by all the people that are in my social circle. You know, so for a lot of people, it is very difficult to even think about leaving. Let's see. You see really hot girls working at fast food drive-thru in the country where there's no jobs. Okay. Not just poverty, black people weren't allowed to learn or read or participate in higher learning for decades. Absolutely, yeah. It's to perpetuate segregation without it being legal. Absolutely. That used to be legal to write on a house deed, by the way, to write no Jews, no Chinese, and then they would actually write the N-word on there. Yeah. I thought there was an American dream that doesn't apply to immigrants or non-white people. And for immigrants, I include white immigrants. Yeah. Great explanation. Good. I'm glad my degree was good for something. Every child, regardless of skin color, wants to be a streamer. Interesting. Well, what does it take to be a streamer? Does it take education? No. Not to say streamers are stupid or uneducated, but it doesn't require a degree to do that. Do you need a huge setup? No. You need a phone that can record videos. That's it. So even if we don't have a computer in my house, I can still be a streamer. You know, I can be a streamer on the go. I don't even have to set up and be around my loud family. Just be a streamer on the go. We call them tornado parks in Kansas. Hi, Neil. Welcome. Trailer park. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I heard mobile home park too. I think that's the less offensive way to say it. I'm not sure. More like the technical name of it, but yeah. Tornado parks, my goodness. There was a snowball effect. For some reason, this got hidden. Snowball effect when even non-racist white people flee neighborhoods with blacks because of how white racists dampen the market in the neighborhoods for the blacks living in them. Very unfair. Let me see. I mean, it can do that, especially if, again, now try to put yourself in their mindset. They really believe they're under attack, you know. They're not, but they believe they are. And so because of that, they act on those feelings. So they call the police too often. They try to do this, vigilante justice and stuff, because they really think they're trying to make things better. But in reality, they just really harm a lot of communities. Yeah. Let's see. As a former drug dealer, I can attest to danger, hassle, and incarceration. Not much profit, right? Congrats on getting out of that. Did you get out because you made so much money that you moved out and brought the ghetto with you? Let's see. Generational wealth. Yes, that is what it is called. Black families living in a middle-class neighborhood usually have middle-class income, education, and lifestyle. Absolutely. Even middle-class fashion. Let's see. All parts of Cali are up long-term period. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Let me see. For what part of California? All parts. Okay, you guys are talking to each other. I couldn't even go back to sleep. My new Hispanic neighbors are partying from 7 a.m. to the evening just a few days ago. Couldn't even go back to sleep. I had to blast an ASMR aerosol video to drown out the music. I lived in a, what's it called? A college neighborhood. And those white college boys, same thing. Next door neighbors, blasting their music from like 11 a.m. and it just didn't stop. And I had to work. I was working like 2 jobs. And I had gone over there and was like, guys, I'm so sorry to be that person, you know, but I'm trying to work. Like I can't. Like my window is facing, can't you guys not? They were trying to honor Michael Jackson. I guess he had just died or something. So they were blasting all this like Michael Jackson music and then just more music. And they've been blasting it outside. It was annoying, but it's 11 a.m., whatever. I guess, whatever, you know. But once it gets to like nighttime, I feel like that's time to be respectful of your neighbors. I didn't want to call the police because I just felt like this is not something to call the police about. Come on, you can go to sleep. You can go to sleep. I may have called in for a noise complaint once, I think, and nothing happened. So that was very annoying. And so again, you know, just the ability and like selfishness to turn up your music loud is not like located within melanin. So the more melanin your body produces, the louder you listen to music, you know what I mean? But when I get a tan, I don't listen to music more loudly. I think Ratza had explained diaspora. But yeah, it's basically people of like a certain ethnic region leaving that region. That would be the diaspora. Let's see, the Freeman and Dune are diaspora. I hope you come to Europe one day and see how gypsies live. So, I mean, if you live in, then why would you assume that only black people live in ghettos? But again, for the Roma people, how are they treated, right? What opportunities are they given and how are they treated? It's very, like, this is why I'm going back to school, and this is why I'm getting, like, pursuing higher education in psychology, because I'm very, very interested in social psychology and how individual people will behave in a social kind of situation. And it's very, very interesting. And I want to do research, if possible, on like culture clashes, because I think there's not a lot of understanding about that. But it's not like to suggest it's just because of a genetic thing. It's so overly simplistic to be just factually wrong. It just is. You know what I mean? Like I guess my question would be why just assume, like, after all of this explanation and stuff, why just assume that there's a gene located in the Roma community that automatically makes them behave that way? Right? You heard the explanation. Like, why do you reject, like, what happened, you know? Let's see. Come to Kansas, Australia, the Roma live. Many Christians did it become bankers? Yes, absolutely, because that's the group. Not even took the opportunity. That's the group that was only left with that option. Yeah. The American dream doesn't even apply to poor white folk. You know what? That's true too. The American dream is like a pipe dream. Jewish people sheltered deserters during World War I. Okay, I'm not sure what that has to do with anything, really. What we're talking about. Let's see. I'm not liquid enough to start buying everyone boats. Okay, but soon. You can buy everybody here a boat. Okay. Time to invest in noise canceling headphones. Maybe. But I was worried about, well, first of all, I was super ultra poor, like at that time. That's the reason I had to live there, was because it was like a sublet house that I had to share a bathroom that nobody cleaned because they were all these entitled, like, rich kids. They didn't clean anything at all. And this was after the military, so I was just cleaning all this stuff. That's the only reason I lived there. It was just, I could not afford to live anywhere else. Like, I was on food stamps, and which is, you know, I was what I thought couldn't happen. I was employed, I was a veteran, hardworking, and I had some college, you know, under my belt. Like, I didn't know that people like me became homeless and super poor. And so this was the only place that I could live, that I could afford to live. So that's why I ended up getting there. And then eventually got a place with a buddy of mine. So that was great. Yeah. Come to Kansas, bestie. Lots of wind and just enough water to learn. Apparently we can just ride the tornadoes. Let's see. He's saying that's why they were hated, but I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in history that it's difficult, right? Like, I teach history, but that doesn't mean I know everything about history. But it is, like, I do make sure the students understand that the nationalism that happened in World War I was a direct result of how World War II was a direct result of how World War I ended for the Germans. And all the students get it. They're like, this wasn't fair to them, and they're super poor, and now they're giving all their money to France and all this other stuff, and they can't even do this, that, and the other thing. Of course that's going to breed nationalism. What did you expect? You know, what could you possibly have expected? So, but yeah, no, they were definitely hated way before that, for having some Joshua guy killed. Yeah, exactly. Yeshua. And what I never understood, like, even back as a Christian, what I never understood was this hatred of Jewish people for killing Jesus, which really doesn't show up in the books, but that they hated Jewish people for killing Jesus, but that we should celebrate the fact that Jesus died for our sins. So I never got that. Like, isn't that good? That somebody had to kill Jesus, and that was all part of this, like, plan. So they're just doing stuff that's part of God's plan. Like, why is that? Like, I never got it. Yeah. Time to cook people. That's a good time. Topeka to Wichita is a beautiful place to drive. Haven't been. How can you not know the legend of Josh? That's good. And I just know the life of Brian. That's why we signed a separate peace agreement. We knew the Allied deal sucked. It did. It absolutely did. I mean, there's a lot of, again, a lot of issues. That's why I changed how I'm teaching the curriculum. I got so tired of how the books teach things. So we're going through the same time period and stuff, but we're doing it by time chunks. And so the idea is that by the time we get to the more modern stuff, which is going to be like 1500 to 2000 or 2021, this chunk should be becoming more like a pyramid. So the idea is that the first unit, which is the peopling of everywhere, right? The peopling of the Americas and the peopling of the rest of Africa and the peopling of Asia and all that stuff, that everything is going to be completely separate. There's going to be some similarities, like the megafauna went extinct, you know, stuff like that. But then as more of time passes, hopefully it's going to turn into like the last unit will be about concepts more than like concepts and conflicts more than it will be about the different groups. So that's the hope. We'll see. You know, what is it? I don't know how that phrase goes, but it's like, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I don't know certain phrases. I'm sorry. Crook. Let me see if you'll come over. Come on. Crook, come on. You gonna come over? Did you hear that? Come on. Oh. haven't seen you. Yeah, you little cheese bread. Yeah. This is Crook. Hi, say hi, Crook. He's my oldest one. He's my #1 son. Yes, he is. He's so amazing. I love him so much. I love him. Say hi. They're gonna say hi. Do you see them? There you go. There you go. Good boy. He's got the most hair. I love you too. Oh, you want to eat the hair? He likes to lick my hair. That's why he was making noise. You want to lick the hair? Come on. Come on. Let's do it over here so they can see how silly you are. Come on. There you go. I don't know if you can see it. He's a baby. He's a baby. He's a big baby. Yes, you are. Oh. He was a stray cat that a friend of mine found because he was playing in the street like a dum-dum. Yes, he was. He's a very big dum-dum. But he couldn't keep him because he was leaving Korea. So, yeah. Can you see him? Yeah, he's eating my hair. That's another reason I only use natural products in my hair. So I said, yeah, let's do it. And so that was, you're so old. You're going to be 9. You're going to be 9. So yesterday was Chaco's birthday because I knew when he was born, but for all the other cats, I just kind of follow the Korean thing where everybody ages 1 year on January 1st, but like, look at the, you got a lot of hair, sweetheart. I don't know why. I'm gonna just shave you one day. Oh, you gonna hide? He likes to put his head, I don't know if you can see it, because there's a little delay. There he is, yeah. Here's your baby. Okay, baby. Where you going? Where you going? Yeah. So he's the best when I have migraines and stuff and I need to lie down. He's always next to me. Yeah. There he is. He's my cheese bread. You can see him. I'm sorry, I'm just focused way too much on Crook. He's usually just lying on the bed. So the idea of him just hanging out in my lap doesn't happen much these days. Yeah, he's a good boy though. All right. Only the Romans killed, also the Romans killed Jesus. They were the ones with the legal authority. Right. It's not like this small pocket of annoying people in Judea were the ones that were in control of anything, right? Plus crucifixion was for political dissidents. Oh yes, yes, they really hated the instability, which is what we talk about too, because we have to talk about when different religions arose and stuff. Many things in history are connected. It's really interesting to learn. It's interesting and frustrating. I tell the students, the more that they learn about history, the more they're going to hate that nothing has changed. Yes. He puts his head up for kisses because he knows I'm going to give the kisses. Oh, it's a big. I'm sorry. I know I'm not. Did I just describe a Star Trek future? No, I didn't. I described how I was teaching my history classes. Hot take, the megafauna didn't go extinct, they just evolved super fast into humans. Okay, Ken Ham. Oh my god. No, but a lot of it was due to, what's it called? Climate change, too. It wasn't just humans. Let's see. The home of Veterans Day. Oh, that's good. I love you, but your hair, I swear. Long live the empire or whatever. Yeah, close enough. No, eugenics would have happened already. This is the mirror. I'm not sure what that was. Can't get arrested in Missouri for being drunk, okay? She's trying to kiss your cat through the computer. I see. All right. There used to be other species of humans around, like Neanderthal, Denisovan, and Homo sapiens. To me, That fact means dividing people by melanin, especially pointless. Oh yes, yes. We've talked about the Neanderthal, the Denisovans, Denisovan. And also, interestingly, we're not sure if Homo sapiens could actually breed with Denisovan, or if they had to breed with Neanderthal, and then the Neanderthal Denisovan child could now breed with a Homo sapien. Yes, me. You were talking about breeding, but you don't do breeding, do you? No, you don't. No, you don't. Never had a pet, but I could live with a cat or tarantula. You totally could, because you see, he's here being lovely, but he's only lovely when he wants to be. He's not demanding. That's how dogs, like, you have a lot of movement you got to do with dogs. You know, you want to take them outside for a walk. Cats just do their own thing, which I like. And he likes, I'm surprised he's being such a good lap baby though right now. You're on your best behavior. You want to impress all the people, don't you? Out of all the cats I've ever had, I think he actually understands stuff. Like, he taught himself how to use the toilet. Like, he taught himself to use the toilet. He just figured out somehow, oh, that's where pee-pee and poo-poo can go. He just figured it out. And then when I'm sick, I like to watch documentaries on, like, bacteria or viruses, and he'll just watch those. The other cats like the documentaries about birds and fish, but he likes to learn about, like, germs. So I think he's some kind of alien plant or Pokemon. It was so much hair. I'm sorry, Crook. I love you though, even with your hair. Sometimes my coworkers will try to take my cat hair off of my clothes, and I just tell them, no, it's catchin instead of fashion. Let's see. Can we talk about King Tut's parents and little chaos they created when they converted to monotheism? Oh, yes. I really like the fact that, oh my gosh, what was his name? Akhenaten. I was going to say Amenhotep, but that's not him. Akhenaten, he freaking, like, they only found his stuff because they had smashed all references to him, and then they put it as, like, filler into these columns, and then some of the columns started breaking over time, and that's the only reason that we even knew about this. It's amazing. What are you touching? Do you want a tarot card? Yeah. What's this tarot card? Is this the one you want? Let's see what it says. It says the Fool. That's it. That's you. You've chosen it. Yeah. You're not a fool, though. You just like new experiences, which really is what the card means. So I guess that is its card. They tattoo, neuter, spayed animals in Korea. No, I think you can chip them, but they don't tattoo them, as far as I know. I mean, they might, but I haven't seen it. He got his little area. Bye-bye. Yeah, well, I've got a lot of hair on me now. Now what? Can't wipe it off because it's on my hands. Crook. Love you. Okay. This is just gonna be me for the rest of the day. Puh. Can we get a toilet lever clip? I don't know what you mean. Like a video of him using the toilet? I think I took a picture of it one time. Alright. So I think defensive shedding. He's not defensively shedding. He's just getting old. You're not getting old. You're gonna live forever. I'm sorry. Okay. He hates getting brushed. 2 of the cats hate getting brushed. He's one of them. But he needs the most brushies. He's looking at me. He's judging me because he knows I'm talking about him. He just did this when I did that. Oh no. I love you. He understands. He understands. And if somebody makes fun of him, he scratches stuff as a stress reliever because he knows people are making fun of him. I'm sorry. I love you. The other cats, they don't seem to notice, but he notices. My number one son, and I love you very much. Does Kitty leave the seat up? No, the seat has to be down, otherwise he can't use it because of the way he has to sit. My cat is judging you and your cat too, that's okay. The 5 Great Emperors were so cool. Trajan as well. The Rome history of Rome stuff was so amazing. I haven't heard that podcast. His eyeball on the screen. That's good. I think Crook knows that I need to actually go lie down because I think he could sense that my migraine was going to start somehow, even before I could sense it. So it's spiking back suddenly. So you guys know sometimes when I get a migraine, it's like, oh, okay, we can take, wind down the chat and all the, like, I gotta stop now. Like, I feel like I'm drowning. Like, I feel there's so much pressure in my head suddenly. That's it. Did you do this to me, Crook? Or did you just know it was coming? Did you know it? He knew it. That's why he was being nice to me. That's why he was being nice. Because he knew. That's it. Confirmation. Biased. But really, I do have to stop. See you guys. Thank you for enjoying or hanging out with me for a very enjoy. Oh my god. I'm sorry. My words. Try to say something while you're in pain, but the pain is in your head and it hurts. Not like in your head, like not happening, but like enjoyable. That's the word I'm looking for. Enjoyable stream. Even with this interesting racist sidetrack, there's discussion of race. I thought it was pretty interesting, and I got to talk about cities, which I'm very happy to talk about cities. All right, guys. Zensei, have fun on your walk. Be safe. See you later, Nathan. See you later, Seabird. Good, Rotten. I also know English. It's just sometimes the recollection, the brain don't brain. That's the problem. The brain don't brain. Yeah, I should eat something, huh? I should. I think I'm gonna have caffeine and my medication because I did miss my medication, so because I was doing the stream, which shouldn't have mattered. It wasn't very long, but apparently. Article in the Smithsonian that indicated Nero wasn't bad. He got smeared. I mean, if that, I'm gonna have to go. Sorry, I can't. I'm gonna pass out. All right, guys. Thank you very much. See you guys later. Bye bye.